Hello, this is Rohan, and welcome to my thoughts on Trails of Cold Steel 1. So, this turned out to be quite the large video, mainly because, I had a lot written down here and a lot I wanted to talk about. So, basically how this is going to work is, I basically split this into multiple segments. I have an introduction, a gameplay section, and then a story section that leads into the characters as well. The story and character sections will have spoilers in them, and I'll warn you of that once we get to that. But for now though, let's get on with the introduction to this very long video. So what is Trails of Cold Steel? So it's fully called The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. It's the 6th game in the Trails series, which is a huge series of interlocking JRPGs developed by Falcom. It follows on from the Trails in the Sky trilogy covering the LaBelle arc, and those games are Trails in the Sky FC, SC, and the 3rd. And then it follows on from the Cross-Spell duology, which is Trails from Zero and Trails of Azure, with Zero being localized in September 2022 and Azure being localized in 2023. Cold Steel is the start of the Erebonia arc, with a focus on class divide and politics. Cold Steel got 3 main releases, and here I'm going to be reviewing how I also played it as well. It originally released on PS3 and PS Vita and was localized late 2015 in the US and early 2016 in Europe. It got an updated PC port in 2017 which had 5,000 new voice lines and turbo mode. Then it got a remastered PS4 port in 2019 which runs at 60 FPS and has higher quality audio. The PS4 version is what I ended up playing, which I'll get into here. So why did I end up playing it? So there are 2 main reasons. First was that I was able to get it for cheap on my birthday, which helped me get Xenoblade 3 when it releases, because I am watching my brother play that now, and it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to play it myself. But anyway, the other reason was inspiration from 2 other people in the YouTube community. So first off, that had to be Big Quingy. He played Sky the Third on his channel this year. And I thought the game was really cool, despite the fact that I had no idea about the first 2 games in the series, SC and SC. He was also supportive of me to give the Cold Steel series a go and go into this to start at a proper starting point like with Cold Steel 1. Then there was Glade Force, a good friend of mine who chatted to me a lot about Cold Steel and its playable cast early in the year. He was also there to give me some advice on playing Cold Steel as well as discuss what I got up to. And I hope I can return the favour of those characters because I talk about what I thought of the playable cast, which I will be doing a bit. Anyway, now let's get on to the gameplay. Before we get on to the gameplay, I wanted to share a few more things. So this video, I'm actually going into more depth about the game itself rather than just sharing my thoughts about it, because I don't know, I felt like I needed to give this game some justice as well, because I quite liked it. And when I do go these details, I guess I can also give my thoughts on what I'm doing it. Too bad I don't have any gameplay footage because I can't record the game, and also I don't feel comfortable using other people's footage, so this is what we're doing. So enough of that, let's get on to the gameplay. First off, we're going to look at the basics of battling. So this game has overworld encounters for the enemies, so they appear in the field, and this is they can be attacked in the field. If you do so, they can get stunned. And I believe it does depend on the properties of the weapon, which we'll get into later. But some enemies might get stunned better from certain weapons, which we can go into later. And if they are stunned, you can sneak up from behind them to get a play advantage, which normally leads to an easy victory for the random battles. But if the enemy sneaks up on you, you will be at a disadvantage with the enemies surrounding you. They go first, and your party set may also get messed up, which I really disliked, because mainly because how I like to ambush enemies, I walk away from them, then I wait for them to walk back to where they first appear. And because you're walking away from them, you're turning your back against them, that means they can easily ambush you, which is kind of annoying. There isn't a way to make ambushing easier There is like a quartz that makes that enemies may flee from you if you're stronger than them, but that's really it. Anyway. So like a lot of RPGs as well as previous games in this series, battles are turn-based. But one change is that characters are still able to move around, but they're no longer confined to a grid. So I guess that just means that moving around is a bit more simplified. Turn order is based on the combatant's speed, so more speed means more turns. And yeah, more turns in RPG is a good thing, so you want to properly have a good amount of speed. As well as also considering the delay of your attacks too, with more powerful attacks having more delay to balance it, so you need to think about that as well. So there's a lot to think about with turn manipulation in this game, which is actually really interesting. I quite liked it. In battle, a character can use a regular attack, which are normally not too strong, but they don't cost anything to use. They can cast an art, which uses the character's SP, with these being the game's magic spells, allowing a character to cast a magical attack of 7 different elements, which are fire, water, wind, earth, space, mirage, and time, with enemies having elemental affinities to keep in mind. And yeah, you can see those like for pretty much every enemy, so yeah, keep those. So yeah, take advantage of those if you can. Not only that, but spells can be used for support like healing, buffing, and debuffing, with the buffs being very useful for tough battles. So yeah, I definitely used buffs a lot later on in the game once I had access to better ones. A character may also use a craft, which are special attacks exclusive to each character, which cost CP to use, with CP only going up to a maximum of 200 CP, but can regenerate when you take or deal damage, kind of like a limit gauge in Final Fantasy, for example. These attacks vary from character to character and are based around the characters themselves as well as their playstyle. Every character can gain access to an S-craft as well, which is basically an ultimate attack which requires using all of your CP. That can only be used if you have a minimum of 100 CP, but the S-craft becomes more powerful if they use like 200 CP. These can turn the tides of tough battles and also look really cool. And I didn't mention it here, but there's a command that you can perform called an S-break. Basically, if you have an S-craft charged up, you can interrupt the next action with an S-craft, which is really cool. And yeah, it's a great way to get off an S-craft while you still have a lot of CP, and if like you're in danger of dying, for example. Or you could use it to maybe interrupt an enemy's action, maybe take them out before they can do anything. It's really cool. Anyway, finally, items can be used, and these can be used for recovering HP, SP, and CP, especially since items can be used instantly, and then you can also run if you want, but I normally don't like doing that. Yeah, I don't think I run away that much, but like, I don't run away that much in RPGs to begin with, so overall, this proved a very fun battle system, and it's only enhanced further by a certain mechanic, which we will see next. So yeah, the battles themselves, yeah, they definitely have a good baseline, but yeah, what makes them really fun is, well, some mechanics, which, yeah, like I said, we're going to be going to next. So that mechanic is called Quartz and Master Quartz, but before we go over that, let's talk about equipment in general. So every character can equip a weapon, armor, boots, and 2 accessories. Armor is mainly used to raise stats, with the accessories also helping with other abilities like blocking stats conditions, for example. Of course, weapons, you know, they raise your attack. They may also have other effects too, which depends on the weapon itself. Anyway, let's go over Quartz now. Quartz is basically like another part of your equipment. It helps determine which arts a character has access to. Quartz still decided to streamline the Quartz system a bit, by the Quartz granting a spell if it says it does, rather than a CPIF elemental value system, where the total value of the CPIF with the character's Quartz lineup determines their art. So like, for example, if a Quartz says it has Firebolt on it, well, you get Firebolt. Simple as that. And also means that the system works more like the Materia system that you would see in Final Fantasy VII, for example, where those are also named after certain spells, and they allow you to use those spells in battle. There is a consequence to this though. They made it so that now in this game, characters have more fixed slots on their weapons. This basically means that the characters have more slots that have to be filled up by a specific element. For example, Reen, he has a restricted fire slot, for example. And yeah, generic characters, they focus on 2 elements. I believe his other one would be time. But yeah, basically what this means is that you need to be a bit more strategic with which... this makes it so... I mean, I wouldn't say it's more strategic, but it means that it's still strategic despite the fact that it's been simplified, because you need to think about what open sets would best fit each character and the elements that they prioritize with that open. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, it definitely made the customization quite fun, which yeah, I can go into later. But anyway, most quartz do grant arts to their wielders, but some of them have other effects too, like attack quartz, giving more stats by boosting strength, or cast quartz, reducing the time that a spell needs to be cast, which is excellent for a caster, of course. The best quartz generally have multiple strong effects, like offering the best arts, giving a strong stat boost, or giving access to a strong ability. So yeah, keep those in mind. There are many types of quartz that I got to use. With examples like Dragon Vein, for example, that helps replenish C or SP, and also gives you more Seeper from battle too, so I got a lot of use out of that. Then there's also the Bell Quartz. There's a Bell Quartz for each of the elements, and they halve the delay of the sent element of art, which can lead to some very fun setup, which yeah, I can go to later. But anyway, this quartz system is wrapped up very nicely by the Master Quartz system. This mechanic debuted in Trails to Azure, and basically how it works is there's this special quartz with only 1 Master Quartz being allowed to be equipped to each character's orc. So yeah, basically you have multiple Master Quartz, but yeah, only a character can only equip 1 Master Quartz at a time. These quartz generally offer more arts as well as some special abilities that can't be seen on normal quartz, like for example Reen's Force Master Quartz that he comes with, which allows him to recover CP from killing enemies, allow him to use cross more often. And yeah, a lot of these also kind of suggest how you should build up the characters as well, and what stats to focus on. So yeah, that's something else to keep in mind. Since Reen can heal CP very easily, you may want to focus on his cross damage, so boosting his strength will be very useful. These quartz can actually level up. They level up to level 5 and they get stronger as you level up. Each character starts with their own Master Quartz, but these can be equipped to other characters you want to experiment, and other Master Quartz can be obtained as you progress. I do really like this system, since it adds another layer of customization and it proved quite fun to experiment with different Master Quartz later on. So like for example, I think this is during like chapter 5, I'm pretty sure, I gave Laura the Taurus Master Quartz, which I think it like triples his strength at max level, so yeah, she basically became a one-shot machine, which is really funny. Then there's Elisa's starting Master Quartz, the Angel Master Quartz, which at the end, it reduces the delay of space arts by 50%, which combines with the Golden Bell, which has this effect as well. And yeah, basically what happened was at the end of the game, Elisa became an extremely strong dark matter spammer at the end of the game. And yeah, that was a great strategy to make use of. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with the course, it makes you feel very smart, so yeah, I really love this system. Anyway, let's go on to another important gameplay mechanic next. Our next gameplay mechanic we're talking about is combat links. So, the Arcus units that everyone comes with isn't only used for orphans either, since it is how the characters are able to form combat links with each other. Characters are able to link each other, either in the tactics menu or during battle. These links tie into another battle mechanic called unbalancing. There are 4 types of physical elements basically, which applies to regular attacks and cross, with these being slash, thrust, pierce, and strike, with each character having different ranks for each of these attack types. So for example, Reen has an S rank with slash, and no ranks in the rest, whereas Eustace has A rank slash and B rank thrust. So anyway, enemies also have vulnerabilities to each of these attack types, which is indicated by a 4-star ranking next to their health. If an enemy has 4 stars of Slash, that means characters who are good at Slash have a very high chance to unbalance an enemy. You can also increase this too with some crafts. Some crafts say that they unbalance more frequently, so like for example it says unbalance plus 10%, so yeah, you may also want to think about using those as well. If an enemy is unbalanced, the character's link pile will perform a follow-up attack if the enemy is still alive, which can really help out. As the plot progresses though, this gets updated. You get a new mechanic called Bravery Points, and these are earned during battle when making these follow-up attacks by unbalancing the enemy, and these can be spent when you unbalance an enemy again. You can choose to spend 3 Bravery Points to form a rush, where the character and their link partner attack a small group of enemies, and then later on, this also gets another upgrade, although this one is like more of a choice, like another choice you can make. So basically, you could either spend 3 Bravery Points to form a rush, however, if you later on, if you're able to save up 5, you can perform a burst if you want. This is where the whole party attacks every enemy as long as they are all linked. And yeah, that's very satisfying to get off. Probably for boss fights, Rush is probably the best, because most of those are like single target, although for multi ones, Burst might be pretty good, but most bosses are kind of hard to unbalance too, as you would probably expect, so it really depends. It really depends on like the situation and stuff, but you'll find ways, like for example using attacks that have a high chance to unbalance, maybe using the detector craft that Emma and Elliot comes with, which actually increases the chance for an enemy to get unbalanced too. There's a lot of ways you can interact with this, so it's a pretty cool system. Anyway, now, next, each character has a link level between the other characters, and these eventually go up to level 5, that's the maximum. Think of these link levels as how strong the bond between the two characters are, and these can be raised by battling together or achieving certain milestones in the plot. With Rean being the main character, he has his own ways to strengthen the bonds of his allies, with the major one being bonding events, which we can go over later. When the character's link level increases, they can gain special abilities when they link up with a character. They have a matching link level, so if the two characters have a link level of 2 between each other, they can use their rank 1 and rank 2 abilities together. But if they are rank 4, they will also have access to their rank 3 and 4 abilities. Some of these abilities are shared between all the cast, like a follow-up finisher if the enemy is low on health, but some are different for each character, so some characters may perform a critical if they follow up, or some will heal their partner if the partner takes damage. I do like the link system a lot actually. It did feel very satisfying to build up bravery points by exploiting what the enemy is vulnerable to, and then finishing off with a strong rush or a burst, and yeah, that never gets old too. Really cool system, and yeah, it ties into the game where the bonds between the characters are extremely important. And yeah, it definitely shows that yeah, the arcs that we got too, they are definitely a lot more relevant than just being used in the plot, for example. So yeah, great mechanic. Anyway, let's go on to the next mechanic of sorts. Now I want to go over the basic chapter structure. So, most of the chapters in Cold Steel follow a basic structure, where a chapter properly begins with a free day, which leads to an investigation of the old schoolhouse, then that leads to a practical exam, and that leads to a field study where the bulk of the chapter takes place, and then this repeats the next chapter. So, let's go into more detail about this, and yeah, it does seem that the game has a nice easy structure to follow, which definitely made it very approachable actually. But anyway, let's go into that more detail like I said. So, on the free days, Rean is given some tasks to complete, with these basically being side quests, although some of these may be required. It depends on the color. I believe if it's green, it's unrequired, and you can do it if you want it. But yeah, you should do as many cycles as possible. I'll go into why later. And then I believe if it's red, it's required. Um, so most of the side quests proved quite fun to do, thanks to objectives being marked on the map, which yeah, that's really useful most of the time. And then only a few of these side quests gave me trouble, mainly ones that I wouldn't be able to figure out on my own, but there really wasn't that many of those. There's just some things I wasn't like familiar with that made me get stuck mainly. I think there was one where I needed to do some cooking, but I didn't actually know that you could go into the old schoolhouse, cook, and then come out couch. That was like that's one of the ones I remember having problems with, but yeah. Other than that, it was pretty smooth sailing for these quests actually. Most of these quests also give quite nice rewards as well, which was extra motivation to try and beat as many as possible. Sometimes they'll reward you with like quartz, and if they do, that's great. I always look forward to that. But anyway, also doing as many quests is important since they grant AP or academic points. These help rank Rean's success as a student. Not only is doing quests important, but doing other things like answering questions correctly as well. So like for example, it's like if you're doing a quest, your classmates ask you how should we like actually no, I'll give an actual example. It's like there's like one quest where basically you're teaching these students and you need to answer some questions correctly for them. And yeah, if you answer them correctly, you get more AP from the quest. That's basically it. Playing smart and doing the right thing grants you more AP basically, so yeah, look out for that. And yeah, as Rean's grade ranks up, you get a nice handsome reward, and yeah, these are pretty great. On my blind playthrough, I should have mentioned that too, yeah, this is a pretty much blind playthrough throughout. I don't think I basically looked up very little as well, so yeah, I was basically all blind, and yeah. And yeah, on my own, I managed to get to A3 rank, which is an admirable effort, but a guide may be needed to achieve the best rank of A0. Which, yeah, or maybe Nuke Impulse helps with that, I'm not so sure, but anyway. During 3 days, Rean can also partake in bonding events. Yeah, I told you I'd be going on to these now, or later. But anyway, bonding events involve his fellow classmates as well as some other characters too. These bonding events are mainly used to help Rean raise his link levels, but kind of like supports in Fire Emblem, these bonding events are also a way to learn more about the characters too. One issue though is that the bonding events need limited bonding points. This is basically, even though this game has a calendar system, this is basically like the only thing that's like time sensitive. I guess kind of like Free Houses, that also has a calendar, but you don't need to plan each day basically. It's not like Persona, let's just say. But anyway, yeah, like I said, the like supports are fun because they're also a way to learn more about the characters too. Unfortunate issue is you needed limited bonding points, so in order to see them all, you need to save and reload, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it is a bit annoying, so I don't really bother. But maybe I should have, because yeah, bonding events are pretty cool. I did quite like them for the characters I decided to look at, since I did learn a decent amount of them, and there were also some sneak moments along the way. So yeah, mainly I just viewed the bonding events of the characters I really liked. And yeah, so like yeah, you'll probably understand who those are later when I talk about the characters of this game, but yeah. Anyway, so I mentioned the old schoolhouse in the basic chapter structure in the beginning. That's one of your required tasks that needs to be done in your 3 days, which is, well, exploring this place. This place is, if I could describe it, it's kind of like Mementos of Persona 5. Kind of. It's, the main similarity is that it's a dungeon that you explore multiple times, and as the progresses, more floors of it unlock. But yeah, unlike Mementos of Persona 5, there's no like quest down here or anything. It's just more of it unlocks as you progress the plot. That's really it. But yeah, these visits can be used to help level up the cast, but the main objective is to get to the end of the floor and beat a boss. And well, these bosses prove some of the hardest fights in the entire game. I'm not so sure why, but yeah, for some reason these guys are really difficult. One example was Uncerta, who I believe unlocks in chapter 5, I do believe. Um, he's like basically this giant ice dragon, but for some reason he's absurdly fast, and because he's an ice dragon he can freeze you, which is very problematic for me. Anyway, so after you complete your adventure in the old schoolhouse, next is the practical exam, which is a test battle with a special condition, and completing this special condition awards some AP. So like for example, if they say to not use items, don't use items, simple as that. Then you are given the details of the field study, which is where it takes place, and the characters are coming along. As mentioned before, this is where the bulk of the chapters take place, and this involves doing some side quests as well as progressing the plot. These were quite interesting, as it was interesting to explore these locations to make the most out of the force power you're given. So yeah, I quite like the structure that this game goes for. It's really interesting. I also want to go over some like other points too, as well as maybe giving my overall thoughts here. Overall, Colt still has a really nice gameplay loop, and I felt quite comfortable to play despite this playthrough being blind, because yeah, with this nice gameplay loop, I knew what to expect coming up, and yeah, that definitely helps when you're blind and you're not so sure what's gonna come up. And yeah, you can also save over too, so if I did make a mistake, I could always reload. Not so sure where else to put this too, but yeah, this game has an amazing soundtrack, which yeah, I hope I'll be able to show off throughout this video. I don't like it as much as what Sky the Third does. That game has an amazing soundtrack, but this soundtrack has a good mix of relaxing and upbeat music, and it was a joy to listen throughout. So, now we're going to be going on to the spoiler section. So basically, pretty much the rest of this video is going to be spoilers. I'll put a time code at this point, tell me where I stop talking the spoilers, which will basically be my conclusion, because yeah, I'm pretty sure I need to spoil what happens. Like yeah, the plot I'm gonna be spoiling, and also when I talk about the characters, I think I may need to spoil some things there as well. So yeah, that's how we're gonna be doing this. So anyway, now let's talk about the chapters in this game. Now that we're ready to talk about the plot, let's do so. So, starting off with the prologue. So, our story follows Rean Schwarzer. After we've seen a premonition at Guerrilla Fortress, we join Rean as he makes his way to Trista by train to start attending Thor's military academy. After a speech by the principal, the students would start joining their classes, except for the students in red uniforms, who were told by instructor Sarah Wallenstein that their situation was different, so they meet up at the old schoolhouse. These students would be part of a new class called Class 7 that combines students from various backgrounds, including social class. Despite opposition by Eustace and Marcius, Class 7 would start the first exercise, which would escape the old schoolhouse from the basement. After an embarrassing moment between Elise and Rean, not great, the students obtained their weapons, Master Quartz and Arcus, to begin the escape, with Rean grouping up with Gaius Forzel and Elliot Craig. After another argument between Eustace and Marcius, Eustace would join Rean's group, where they would find the exit, but not before the first boss fight against the Eaglet Garmid, basically like this gargoyle-like thing. So yeah, you beat him, but then all of Class 7 would come in to finish the beast, and Sarah congratulates them for a job well done by taking advantage of all the combat linking of the Arcus. So, this is a nice chapter that sets up the plot decently well, and it gets you used to the gameplay too as well. The basics of the combat basically, because yeah, enemies are weak in this place, and yeah, the game gives you like a couple of tutorials as well to help you along as well. So yeah, and yeah, I was also pretty interested to see what would happen after that as well. So yeah, a good start to this game. Let's go on to the next chapter. So now time for chapter 1. After getting used to the school, it was time for the first of the field studies. So Rean will be going in Group A, which, funny enough, this is the group he always ends up in for some reason. He'll be going alongside Elisa R, Laura S. Arseed, and Elliot, who we already know about. The destination will be the rural town of Seldic. So Elisa would go over that embarrassing incident, with the whole group gaining a greater understanding of each other thanks to the task. The main part of this chapter story-wise is when an incident occurs at the market, with 2 of the stores getting vandalized, causing lots of chaos. So yeah, Rain and company want to sort this problem out, considering what they've learnt as well during their tasks, and how important it is to help people, so they decide to, well, help sort this problem. They locate where the culprits are, and they figure out that they need to go to Lunaria Nature Park. So here they will stop the culprits, and also the boss of this chapter turns out to be a giant monkey. But anyway, after that they get into trouble with the Provisional Army, who are in league with the culprits, but we get bailed out by the Railway Military Police, which is led by Captain Claire, and they come to save Rain and company, as well as forcing the Provisional Army to retreat and arresting the culprits. On the way back to Fours, Rain would reveal that he was the adopted son of Baron Schwarzer, which technically makes him a noble, despite having no noble blood at all. And yeah, this kind of upsets Marcus, because during the prologue, Rain specifically states that yeah, he's not a noble, but yeah, now it kind of feels like he got betrayed. So yeah, he doesn't take the news very well as a result. So overall, this chapter, I quite like playing it too. It sets up the basic chapter structure, which I talked about a little bit ago, as well as shows off 2 very great party members. They would also become some of my favourites, Laura and Elisa, of course. They were very fun to use. And yeah, the story scenes in this chapter is pretty good, as well as I actually quite like Seldic as well. It's a very nice, peaceful place. And I also like the scenery outside as well. It's pretty nice, seeing the lush green landscape and all that good stuff. But yeah, the main plot that happened too was pretty interesting as well. It does set things up quite nicely, I'd say, because yeah, we have the Provisional Army not doing anything, and it turns out that they're in cahoots with the culprits as well, and yeah, they get what they deserve by the military police. So yeah, like I said, this is a very decent chapter to basically start the basic chapter structure with. And yeah, we got to play as some really cool characters, and yeah, the plot is set up quite nicely. Let's see how things build up now in chapter 2. So, chapter 2 now. So, at school, Marcus acts very cold towards Rean, but Rean also gets acquainted with Celine, the Black Cat, who is being looked after by Emma, who may or may not be important there. But anyway, now it's time for the second field study, with Rean being part of Group A again. I've already mentioned that before, but yeah. The destination will be Bereahard, which is Eustace's hometown, and yeah, it's home to a lot of nobles as a result. And yeah, he'll be accompanied by Eustace, Marcus, Emma, and Fee. So yeah, once again, the 2 arch rivals are paired up again. And yeah, as you would probably expect, yeah, this leads to a very rough start in the field study, with the 2 of them bickering a lot, and then this goes into a very bad situation. Basically, they try to form a combat link, but they just can't against this enemy. And then, while they're bickering about that, the enemy takes a swipe at Rean, meaning that he takes a heavy injury, and then yeah, they apologize afterwards as a result. So yeah, with that situation resolved, at night though, something interesting happens. So Eustace reveals his past, and the important part is that his mother was actually a commoner, and also a different mother to his brother too. So yeah, and then yeah, Marcus would also overhear this while he was sleeping. So yeah, he realizes that yeah, Eustace isn't really the person that he was making out to be. So yeah, they make peace, and Eustace And yeah, Marcus makes peace with Eustace now that he understands Eustace's plight a lot better. Anyway, the next day, the final day at the field study, and it's actually the 30th of May, which is kind of funny, but anyway. So Eustace is forced to visit his home after the morning task, or visits his home before the morning task, and then after we do that though, Marcus will get arrested by the Provisional Army, so yeah, they're causing problems again. So Rita and company decide that they need to free him. I believe that they arrested him because he was the son of course, Governor Rectus, I believe his name. And yeah, he doesn't get along well with the noble faction, who I believe is who the Provisional Army works for. But anyway, enough about that. So they think about how they're going to rescue Marcus, but luckily they hear about an underground waterway from an interested looking person, and they decide that that's the best chance they have to save Marcus. So yeah, while they're down this like sewer-like area, they reunite with Eustace, who learn about the situation, so they decide to help rescue Marcus. They reach a massive door, but Fee from I remember blows it up, and it's also revealed here that she was once a Jaeger, which are basically the mercenaries of this game's universe. After that, they are now able to rescue Marcus, and then they try to escape. But we have the bosses of Chapter to deal with, who are basically these two big guard dogs, and the group manages to defeat them, thanks to Eustace and Marcus also finally able to form a successful combat link. So yeah, good for them. Like last time though, the Provisional Army has them surrounded, but they would be saved by the intervention of Sarah, good old Sarah, and Eustace's older brother, Rufus. And I believe it's revealed after this that Rufus is one of the, I think it's the governor of the, I forget what it's actually, but yeah, it's something important with the school in Class 7. But anyway, I think it's board directors, there we go. But anyway, so, anyway, they head on back discussing what happened, and yeah, this is a pretty fun chapter, not gonna lie. Briarheart is a pretty cool place with an interesting atmosphere, and some pretty interesting NPCs too. And yeah, it also sets up the factional conflict that Erebonia is facing. Of course, yeah, the nobles don't really like the commoners, and the commoners don't really like the nobles, and yeah, you can kind of see that in this chapter. And yeah, it was also cool to see Eustace and Marcus be able to make up, and I say that they did it in a, I'd say that they did that in a, what's the right word? Satisfying, there we go. They did it in a very satisfying manner, I'd say. And yeah, chapter also pretty fun to play because, yeah, even though I don't really talk about Fee and Emma that much, they were pretty fun to use in this chapter for the first time. And yeah, of course, Eustace and Marcus, they were pretty fun to use as well. But yeah, so yeah, I quite like chapter 2. Pretty great next chapter. Let's see how the plot goes on from there while we go to chapter 3. So, time for chapter 3 now. So, during school, Reen would learn that Elise's last name was Reinford. This family heads the Reinford Company, which is a very important company centered around orbital technology. So yeah, kind of a big deal in this game, as we'll learn later. We also get acquainted with Reinford's family maid Sharon Kruger, who was appointed the caretaker for the Class 7 dorms. And yeah, she's a very kind, caring person who takes her maid-related jobs like cooking very seriously. She also likes to appear out of nowhere to, you know, help. Because yeah, that's the kind of person that she is. And yeah, I quite like Sharon. She was one of the first characters I was introduced to with Trails in general. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see her for the first time in this game as well. Anyway, so Class 7 would find out how well they did in their midterm exams, and they would have the best average out of all the classes, which kind of annoyed the nobles in Class 1. So much so that they would battle Class 7 for their practical center in this chapter, which was interesting. But anyway, Class 7 would win, and the instigator of this battle, Patrick Hyons, would get insulted a lot. Because yeah, that's kind of something that happens a lot, but he gets better over time, so yeah. Anyway, So now it's time for the next field study, which again reads in Group A. They'll be going to the Nord Highlands this time, which is Gaius' homeland. And yeah, he'll be coming along with Eustace, Elisa, and Emma. And yeah, this would prove a very long train ride to get to the Nord Highlands, and along the way they would make a brief stop at Rura Station, where the group gets acquainted with Chairman Arena, who is Elisa's mother, but she acts very cold towards her daughter, so couldn't get much out of her. Anyway, the group finally makes the Nord Highlands and travel to the settlement that Gaius lives. You have to travel there by horse, which is kind of interesting, but yeah. This place is quite big, which yeah, we'll get into that when we go to gameplay, but anyway. So, this settlement, everyone here is super kind and friendly, which probably helped lift the mood of the group, because yeah, everyone felt like very positive here, and yeah, the vibe was just really nice, you know. So anyway, the tasks would prove a bit difficult due to the large size of the Nord Highlands, but they were rewarded quite well. And yet during this exploration, they also meet the former chairman of the Rhymeford Company, Quinn Rhymeford, who is also Lisa's grandfather. And yeah, this would lead on to a very nice scene at night, where Elise has basically a private chat to Reen about her situation. She doesn't think too highly of her mother due to her focusing all her time and energy to the company after Lisa's father passed away, which caused Elisa to get lonely, especially due to Queen deciding it would be best for him to leave and live on his own, so Lisa really only had Sharon to keep her company. Lisa felt relieved that she could get all that off her chest, and although the rest of the group ended up eavesdropping on them, the rest of the group would eavesdrop on Lisa, so yeah, she predictably got embarrassed after realizing that, but yeah, this is definitely a very good character moment, and one that, yeah, I'll remember very well. Probably talked about that in a little bit, but anyway. So, unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, because we get news of an attack on the watchtower surveying Calvard. So yeah, the stakes are definitely rising a bit here. And yeah, this could lead to a war between both sides, which yeah, that would be terrible. So Serena and decide to investigate who the culprits could be. During this investigation, they find this strange girl called Milliam, and she's accompanied by a silver puppet called Eric Gatlin, who she calls Lemmy. This person was also spotted in the last chapter, during a part of it, but yeah, we actually get to see her in the flesh now. It turns out she isn't the one causing problems. She is actually the one that she's actually also looking for the culprits herself. So with her, she offers to help, and she joins as a guest party member, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, look at the culprits in the cabin. I believe this place used to be like a mine, and Emma points out the higher elements are at play. So basically what that means is enemies are weak to the higher elements in this place. They can be weak to the higher elements of this place. And also, you get different turn bonuses too, like death blows for example. So yeah, it's interesting for gameplay reasons. But anyway, they locate the culprits in a cave where the high elements are at play, like I said, and they track down the person who's pulling the strings. He reveals himself as G, and Leia calls himself Gideon. So he sicks a giant enemy spider on the group, who's the boss this chapter, but it doesn't work, and he fails to take down the group, so he retreats. So, thanks to Group A, as well as the Captain of the Intelligence Division Lecter, war was averted. And yeah, Lecter would just leave, because he has other important business, along with Milliam as well. So yeah. And yeah, we also learned that they were a part of the Intelligence Division. So yeah, that's how, that's probably how Milliam got wind of the culprits, with that tie to that. But anyway. So yeah, that's the story part. This chapter feels very different to play, because Nord Highlands is very big. So yeah, it's basically kind of open world, except not really. It's just a very large area, so you need to use a horse to explore it in a timely manner. And yeah, it's interesting. It does feel a lot more open to explore, which is interesting and does like create more variety of the gameplay, but yeah, I prefer what other chapters to, where you are given more linear places to explore. So yeah, that's just what I think. But yeah, the Nord Summit though I really liked. It gave off so many positive vibes. And yeah, it does make Gaia seem a lot more interesting too, because yeah, you can definitely tell that the dude was definitely inspired a lot by the place he used to live. And yeah, the scene with Lisa, that's one of my favorites. It's definitely a great character moment for her. And yeah, as you saw with the attack on the watchtower, yeah, the stakes of the plot are now starting to rise, and they keep rising as we go on to chapter 4. So, chapter 4 now. So, at school, Rean would bear witness to the rivalry between Fee and Laura, which came about due to Laura learning that Fee was an ex-Jaeger, which means that they have contrasting beliefs. Yeah, that's a thing that happened, but anyway. But also during school, Rean would get a surprise visit from his younger sister, Elise, who is the blood-related child of the Schwartzes. Of course, remember, Rean was adopted by them, so they're not related by blood, which could be interesting, but anyway. Rean has a discussion about his future, Elise. I believe he wants to join the army, but Elise doesn't take that very well. So, she runs off. And then it gets even worse because she finds herself in danger at the old schoolhouse. But Rean will come in to save her, but after seeing her in danger, he awakens to his demonic-looking power. But yeah, luckily it doesn't take him over and he manages to restrain himself, so... And yeah, something else that would help too, Crow would come in and help defeat the enemy that was threatening Elise, which turned out to be this giant suit of armor with no one inside. But anyway, so with Elise all safe and sound, next is the next field study. Both groups will be going to the same place, the Erebonian capital Heimdall, but just different parts of it. So anyway, Group 3 would have, of course, Rean leading it, but he'll be alongside Laura and Fee, because again, we have the two rivals in the same group, along with Marcus and Elliot, who both come from Heimdall, so yeah. So anyway, they get here and they get acquainted with Governor Recknitz, who of course is Marcus' father, and probably the reason why, like I said in chapter 2, the reason why the Provisional Army decided to capture Marcus, because I believe they are at odds with Recknitz. But anyway, he'll also be the one to provide the task for the group. Then during that, Laura and Fee try to form a combat link again, kind of like what Marcus and Eustace did, but it doesn't work. But Rean does see some potential in the two pairing up, so Laura is adamant to fix this issue. And after hearing the backstory of Elliot, who I'll go to later, basically the quick version of that is he wanted to become a musician basically, like his mother and sister, but his father wanted him to join the army because his father was an important member of the army. But yeah, after hearing that, Laura became very adamant to try and fix the issue between Laura and Fee playing up. So at night she challenges Fee to a duel to understand her better, and after this duel Fee reveals her backstory, where she was a part of the Jaeger Corps, and she was called Zephyr. But this corps was disbanded after the leader was killed, and after that Sarah would take in Fee and make her a member of Class 7. And yeah, now that they understand each other better, Laura and Fee are able to form a combat link and are able to defeat Rean and Marcus in a practice battle, which is actually pretty cool. Anyway, the next day we learned about Marcus' backstory, where he had a good relationship with his cousin, and even treats her as a sister, but she was driven to suicide after receiving harassment and death threats from the family of the person she was dating. And yeah, due to her family being part of the nobility, this led to his hatred of nobles. But after seeing Rean and Eustace, his view on the nobility mellowed, and he only directs his hate against the people who deserve it. So yeah, that was interesting to learn about, and yeah, I'll go into more detail when we talk about Marcus. But anyway, the next day will be a frustrating one, as they need to solve some of Chu's riddles of Phantom Thief B, who is exactly who you think it is. But anyway, but they win out and get back what he stole. Next day, Class 7 meets up at the old girls' school St. Asteria, I believe. Asteria, actually, that's what it was. And yeah, this is actually the school that Elise goes to. Um, but also, it's also where one of her good friends also goes to. And it turns out that one of Elise's good friends is the Princess of Erebonia, Alfyn Reyes Arnold. But yeah, not only that though, they also get to meet Prince Oliver, the very same from the Sky Games. And yeah, he gets to meet Class 7 for the first time, which is kind of a big deal because he reveals that he's the chairman of 4's board of directors. And that Class 7 was his idea in the first place to help cultivate those who would overcome the conflicts of the world. And yeah, during this time too, they learned that Sarah used to be a barista, which is pretty interesting. She was being very coy about that in earlier chapters. But anyway. But some more disturbing news though is that Captain Claire thinks that some terrorists want to target the festival. The Summer Festival is what it's called, which, yeah, that's in Heimdallr. Oh, that's Sever in Heimdallr. So yeah, Class 7 decide they're gonna help with security. Everything seems fine, but then, yeah, the terrorists cause some chaos at Tricol's Plaza. But Reen and company quickly realize this is just a diversion to the terrorist's main target, who of course is Princess Alfyn at the garden party. And yeah, she is back again, or Gideon, depending on what we've heard. And yeah, he's 100% in charge of this operation. And he takes Alpha and Elise as hostages, so then we get to pursue him in this underground passage, but then he decides to summon the boss this chapter, a bone dragon. Pretty fearsome looking, but yeah, the group manages to defeat it, and they also break the flute that Gideon was using to summon the monster bosses. So now he can't do much. Unfortunately, more members of the terrorists appear, in the form of V, S, and the leader C. And C was too strong for the group to defeat, so yeah, I can't really do much about that. And then they retreat before the railway military police come and make an appearance. But before they leave, they reveal their identity. The terrorists are called the Imperial Liberation Front. And yeah, we don't really know much about that, and then they leave. So anyway, before Class 7 leaves to return to them, they also meet the Blood and Iron Chancellor, Gileath Osborne. So yeah, this guy was in a door in Sky the Third, and here he is, being cool and stuff. But anyway, and yeah, he's not well liked by everyone because he's also like the person behind the closure of the Bracer Guilds from most of Erebonia. So someone like Sarah isn't really a big fan of him. But yeah, that's that for chapter 4. This is a really cool chapter. Heimdallr is a very cool place to explore. It's very big, but you don't get to explore all of it, so it doesn't feel too tempting to explore. And yeah, we've had some pretty great character moments. We got to learn a lot of backstories here, and also got to see Fee and Laura become best friends here, so that was cool to see. And yeah, we also get to learn about the main villains of the story, because we never get to see them. And yeah, this proved a very memorable chapter, and again, the stakes are once again rising. We have a better idea of who our true enemy is. This is definitely a very important chapter in this game. So anyway, how will we go on from here with chapter 5? So, time for chapter 5. So, this starts off with something kind of interesting. Class 7 will get 2 new members. The second year Crow Armbrust gets to join because he needs to make up credits because he likes to slack off in class, as you do. But the other person would actually be Milliam Orion, who Reen met at Nord, and she was part of the intelligence division. Despite being a bit too enthusiastic, she fit in quite well with Class 7. So, she'd also be coming to the next field study. And yeah, Reen will be part of Group A again, and now they're going to Laura's hometown of the Gram. And yeah, Laura will be coming along alongside Milliam, like I said before, but also Gaius, Emma, and Eustace are also coming along. So this field study will be a bit different because after doing the task of the Gram, both groups will meet at Corellia Fortress. So that's interesting. Anyway, at the Gram, Reen and company would reunite with Torval. Torval was in chapter 2 in Brehard, and he was the one who clued the group to go to the underground waterway. But anyway, to rescue Marcus, of course. But anyway, So Toad will be the person to give the group their tasks in the gram, with one including helping to train the students in Arseed's school, where they also fight the butler there, and that was a pretty fun battle. Anyway, and yeah, they were lucky enough to also get the chance to meet Viscount Arseed, Laura's father, and that was great to see, because yeah, he definitely really loves his daughter a lot. He was out when we first came to the gram, but yeah, he managed to come back, so that's cool. But anyway, Rean decides he actually wants to fight Laura's dad, despite him being one of the strongest swordsmen in all of Erebonia and being cool and having the title of Radiant Blade Master. So, anyway, the Viscount says that Rean was afraid of his hidden abilities and forced Rean to make use of them. So yeah, Rean does fight back a little bit, but then and then RC puts him in his place, and yeah, that ends that deal very quickly. But yeah, the Viscount will win, but he taught Rean the importance of accepting himself, which yeah, is quite important later. The next day, the noble faction's leader Duke Cayenne would pay a surprise visit to the town, with Viscount Arseed feeling uneasy about this, so he decides to leave the ground with Toval, leaving Rean and company to complete the remaining tasks and look out of the town. Duke Cayenne's actually not super important in this game's plot. I assume he's gonna be much more important in the sequels, so yeah. Anyway. Like, yeah, I can tell he's a presence, like, later, but they don't really mention him directly. But yeah, like I said, I'm assuming he's gonna be a character that's gonna be important in the sequel, but anyway. So at night, though, something kind of bad happens. Two little kids would go missing at the nearby castle. But this castle then also starts to glow very brightly, and fiends start roaming around the place, which Emma actually is quite knowledgeable about. But anyway, the group would be able to save the kids and manage to escape by stopping the weird stuff that's happening. But yes, definitely a lot of weird stuff happens. After they defeat the boss, it looks like they're about to be defeated, but a strange figure comes in to save them and then they manage to escape. Very weird, but yeah, but very interesting at the same time. So anyway, that's part 1 of the chapter done. Let's go on to the next part, which is where the groups meet up at Grellia Fortress. On the way, Rean will catch a glimpse of Osborne, Oliver, and Toa going to the Crossbell Trade Conference, which will be important later. So the Grellia Fortress is basically a giant wall that divides Erebonia and Calvard, and it possesses 2 giant railway guns that could annihilate Crossbell just like that, so yeah, that's not good. Major Nightheart would show Class 7 around the fortress. He is one of the teachers at Force as well, that's one of his other jobs. So it's cool to see him. Another person we get to see is General Craig, Elliot's dad, and yeah, he's definitely a dad, alright. he definitely likes his son, despite Elliot's backstory. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, Class 7 were quite overwhelmed by the powerful weaponry on display. In like a little mock training exercise of sorts. But anyway, unfortunately though, the next day would be the darkest so far. There was news of the terrorists attacking the Crossbell Trade Conference, and then shortly after, the fortress would also be under attack by the Imperial Liberation Front. Those guys are good. But anyway, now both groups need to do something about this. So Group A would have Sarah join in to help, with Group B getting Nightheart. And yeah, we're part of Group A, so yeah, we got to use Sarah a little bit. They learned that the Liberation Front want to fire the railway guns at the Crossbell Trade Conference and kill Osborne no matter the cost, even if they kill like tons of other civilians too. So yeah, we can't let that happen. So it looks like we have some quite close calls. Basically in the premonition at the start of the game, where this takes place, it looks like that they would achieve this, but yeah, it's revealed later that the guns need some time to prepare to fire. So Group A would use this opportunity to stop S, who we now know as Scarlet, one of the important members of the Imperial Liberation Front. With Group 3 also defeating another important member, V, who's now known as Vulcan. And yeah, thanks to that, they prevent the guns from being fired at all. But those two managed to escape, so yeah, they're gonna come back and fight another day. So yeah, really great chapter this one. The Gram is just a really nice place. It has really nice music, a cool atmosphere, and it also has some pretty fun NPCs. All of them really love Laura, which I guess makes sense. And yeah, once again, we're seeing the stakes keep increasing. After seeing what the Imperial Liberation Front is capable of with the plan to nuke Crossbell. And yeah, the final stage of this chapter you get to use Sarah, who's really cool. Because yeah, you really look up to her throughout this game, because yeah, she was once a very legendary bracer, and it's great to see her in action here. So yeah, I quite like this chapter. Very cool plot, and very good moments too, and it was also pretty fun to play as well. I got to experiment with some pretty powerful quartz too, especially on Laura for example, so yeah. Like I said, very fun chapter, I liked it a lot. Anyway, let's go on to chapter 6. Now, chapter 6. So after the shocking events at Corellia Fortress, the board directors are unsure if they want to continue the field studies. But thanks to Oliver, the next field study would go ahead as planned. So yeah, he did a pretty good job of convincing them. Anyway, Class 7 were now also thinking about something else. They want to prepare for the school festival at the end of October. And they figured something out thanks to the help of Toa. They decide to do a live musical performance. So now that that idea is there, they're gonna have to work on it. But before that, it's now time for the next field study. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool how they get there though, because they find out they're going there by the Crimson airship called the Courageous, which had Oliver on board with his trusty bodyguard Mueller. We don't get to see him that much in this game, but hey, it's cool to see him with his good pal of sorts, Oliver. Toval's here along with Viscount Arcide, who's actually the captain of the ship, I believe as a deterrence mechanism basically, because you know, he's really strong. Anyway, so Reen will also be a part of Group A once again. I don't know why I keep saying that, but yeah. They're going to be going to Rura, home of Ryanford's corporate HQ, and also where they live. And yeah, Elise is obviously coming along with V, Elliot, Marcus, and Crow. So anyway, the group works on the task as usual during this time, but later they notice that the Provisional Army and Railway Military Police are butting heads, like they usually do. But luckily, they don't start fighting each other thanks to Claire and Rufus interfering. Anyway, so it's nighttime now. Irina promised that she would come and eat dinner with them, but she can't because she's busy, like she usually is. And yeah, that really annoys Lisa. And yeah, she reveals why. And it's also revealed that Lisa's actually kind of worried about Irina's constant focus on her work. I do believe she wasn't always like this. It mainly happened after Elise's dad passed away, I do believe. Anyway. So Rain then gets this surprise call from Captain Claire, and she says that she wants to meet Rain privately at the nearby bar, which he agrees to, but Fee also decides to tag along just in case. But anyway, Claire's in disguise here, which is kinda cool, and she explains that there was a conflict within the Reinford group. I believe this is mainly because the different branches support different factions. And she wants to investigate some of these groups. And Class and decide that they're also going to agree to look into this as well. The next day though, something bad happens. A fire is reported at the military factory, with the group managing to rescue the people inside, as well as take out this dangerous machine inside. I believe its description also mentions something about Ouroboros, which is interesting. But anyway, things get worse as they hear that the terrorists have occupied Sashin Iron Mine, and that the Provisional Army are seeing off the mine to protect the hostages. But it reveals that the main aim is actually just to prevent the railway military police from getting in and doing something bad. But anyway, luckily though, Angelica and George arrive to lend some assistance in this situation. And yeah, Angelica came here because she thinks her family is involved, so it became so basically becomes her matter. Luckily, they need a way in though, and luckily Elise tries to speak to her mother to get the key card to enter the secret entrance to mine, and she actually manages to convince her thanks to showing how determined she is. So again, another great moment from Elise character-wise, well, Elisa. So in the mine, they've managed to find some hostages, and Crow offers to help them get out, but due to a cave-in later, he is unable to come back to help for the time being. At the end, we get to meet Vulcan again, and he explains that he was once a Jaeger and that he recognizes him. And he also reveals that the reason why he joined the Imperial Liberation Front was to get revenge on Osborn, who wronged him in the past. I believe that's the main motivation of the Imperial Liberation Front, if you couldn't tell from the fact that they want to nuke Crossspell while Osborn is done. But anyway. So yeah, the group manages to defeat Vulcan, but then C decides he's going to show up too, and he also wants to fight. And yeah, this proved one of the longest and grueling battles for me. It took like 40 minutes to bring the dude down. But I managed to do so, and... But yeah, they tried to escape once again with their airship, but then it gets mysteriously shot down, so I guess the Imperial Imperial Liberation Front is no more. Anyway, so with that kind of anticlimax, Oliver would enter the scene and take control of the situation, and there was an investigation about what happened. And yeah, and it also turns out the end of the chapter, not only is Claire kind of interested in the weapon that was used to bring down the Imperial Liberation Front, but also Sharon as well, because she also came on to Rura because of course she's familiar with this place. And yeah, we got to see some moments with her, but yeah, it's interesting to see that she was also quite interested. But anyway, again, I quite like this chapter a lot. Rura proved to be a pretty interesting place. I mean, and again, we got some great character moments. Once again, Elise is just, you know, great. And yeah, the story proved pretty interesting too, especially with that ending with the Imperial Liberation Front being, you know, blown up and gone, basically. So yeah, we'll see what comes about after that. But anyway, only one chapter remains. How will this story end now? Now it's time for the final chapter. So before it starts though, the game quickly explains some events that happens between this chapter and the last chapter. One of these includes a visit to Reen's home of Ymir. So anyway, these scenes were probably planned to be shown in more detail, but are cut due to time constraints. But the story of these scenes can be found in the drama CD, so there's that at least. But anyway, on to the main part. After a trip to Ymir, Class 7 returns back to school to practice on a concert, which seems to be going quite well. Like, you know, practice has been going well, all that good stuff. But yeah, Reen needs to go out and get some outfits, so to do this he needs to go to Heimdallr and he uses Angelica's bike, which is kind of a big deal at this point because Angelica was told by her father to leave Force, which I'll go into more detail later, but anyway. But yeah, while he's going there though, he can take another person to come along with him. I believe this can be like most people. But yeah, I decided to bring Laura for this because I thought it'd be cool, because I like Laura, and yeah, she had some pretty fun dialogue. But anyway, so while there, Reen once again meets up with the famous opera singer Vita. So yeah, she appeared like before as well, but Reen's more familiar with her other guys, which is as Misty, the host of Trista's radio station. And yeah, he found out about this connection a little bit earlier. So yeah, it's kind of a secret that he knows that no one else does. But anyway, she's kind of important, so it's interesting to see her here again near the end of the game. So yeah, can't really see much more than that. But anyway, so now it's time for the festival. On the first day, Reen could visit some of the attractions alongside a person of choice to raise the affinity between the two. So yeah, this is actually a pretty cool part. Basically, yeah, the attractions are basically like mini games, but some of them are like more, like, I guess, more like personal, private conversations, like the Skyguard for example. That one was like favorite, obviously. But the mini games, they were pretty fun too. So yeah, on my playthrough, I actually had Sarah come along to a lot of these because I wanted to get her to rank 5 Affinity. So yeah. So that was pretty cool. But I think I also ranked Laura to some of them too once Sarah did get to rank 5. I believe you're given like 6 activity points basically to for these attractions, so yeah. So yeah, I did like the Skullfest part. I will say one thing, I do remember it being a little bit hard on the game, like the frame rate dropped a lot during it, but but anyway, so now it's night. Class 7 are discussing the contest, but then the bell from the old schoolhouse begins to chime. And when they go there, it was glowing similar to the castle on the ground. So yeah, this event could have called off the school festival and meant that the concert would go ahead. So Class 7 decided to persuade the principal and Sarah as best they could. So yeah, so then they could do their concert tomorrow. And yeah, they were successful. So now it's time to take on the last dungeon of the game. So they descend to the bottom and enter the realm of the Great Shadow. And yeah, like I said, this is the last dungeon. It's full of some interesting puzzles and really difficult enemy encounters. And yeah, some of those are really difficult. Some of them have like tons of health to chew through. But yeah, it also has some really amazing music too. I should mention that too. I really like To Grasp Tomorrow, which is the dungeon theme, but it also plays with the bells in this place too, which is awesome. But yeah, like I said, this game is a great soundtrack, so yeah. So yeah, after all that, Class 7 manages to reach the end and face the final obstacle in this place, Loa Erebonios, this like giant black shadowy thing, which is kind of an annoying fight because it basically like removes party members, and yeah, that's annoying to deal with. But yeah, he's kind of like the final boss this game, so Class 7, in the end, Class 7 manages to conquer him, and the old schoolhouse turns back to normal. But they also open a door that wasn't there previously. I believe this is at the very bottom of the old schoolhouse. And they find this giant mech-looking knight. But anyway, enough about that. Time for the next day of the school festival. So before the concert, Rean decides to show Elise around the attractions. But yeah, enough about that. Now time for the concert. This one's pretty cool. Class 7 given it all, and the contest proved a very great success. I believe it was considered the most popular attraction, so yeah, good work. So good work from Class 7. Anyway, now, after that, then we have the after party. I know this is in like some like anime and stuff, but basically you have like the bonfire, and the people are dancing around it. That's basically what this is. But anyway, here, Rean thanks Crow for helping with the concert, and after that, Rean can spend some one-to-one time with someone he was close to. You need rank 5 Affinity, and then yeah, you have a choice. So yeah, initially I chose Laura, because again, I really like Laura. And yeah, I love these conversations, they were really great. They kind of remind me of the supports in Three Houses a little bit, but I think they're a lot better, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, I like these conversations, and yeah, because I like Laura's a lot, that's what convinced me to look at Elisa's, V's, and Sarah's afterwards too. You also get an achievement for viewing them, so yeah. On the New Game Plus, you probably want to try and max out everyone's affinity, so then yeah, you can view all of them. But anyway, so after that one-to-one conversation, the party was brought to an abrupt end, unfortunately, because the principal needed to share some shocking news of Corellia Fortress. It was annihilated, and then yeah, it completely vanished without trace. And the blame was put on Crossbell for the disappearance, and yeah, as you would expect, the mood became very, very tense. And yeah, also it's decided that Oswald is going to make a speech about this, which I believe happens a couple of weeks later. But anyway. So yeah, when the siege was going on, Class 7 would also like to have a listen to it, but Crow decided he wants to listen to it in person for some odd reason. But anyway, so Osmond's speech is making it clear that he wants to declare war on not only Crossspell, but also Calvard. And just before the declaration of war though, he was assassinated by the Imperial Liberation Front leader C. And how exactly? Well, he didn't actually die in the last chapter, he faked his own death. So yeah. And also we get to reveal his true identity. Crow Armbrust, the former Class 7 member. So yeah, that was a shocker, right? But anyway. So Class 7 was able to get a clearer look of what was happening thanks to Misty, because she uses an eerie chant to show them exactly what was happening. And yeah, it's also revealed to here that Emma actually knows who Vita is and her true identity, that being the Witch of the Abyss, and apparently Emma knows her as kind of a sister. But yeah, none of Class 7 catch on to this because they're shot by Oswald's death, so yeah. Something to consider for next go, I guess, but anyway. So yeah, the Imperial Liberation Front isn't done yet though, because they have this silver airship that drops in some mech-looking things called the Panzer Soldats. And apparently they were built by the Noble Alliance, and they effortlessly take control of Heimdall, and yeah, they take over it basically. So, and yeah, Vita will also have a chat with Blue Blanc on top of a building, and yeah, if this should be ringing a bell. With Blue Blanc being a member of Ouroboros, and him talking to Vita, it's revealed that yeah, Vita is actually Ouroboros' second Anguis. We, at this point, actually I'm not so sure about from Zero and Azure, but yeah, we only know of another Anguis, that being Weissman, who died during the events of, I guess, SC, and I guess the third as well, but anyway. But anyway, so now the Soldats are also approaching Trista, and of course the school too. So the instructors and principal went off to try and defend Trista the best they can. And actually they are pretty competent, all of them. And another person also comes to help out, Sharon, who also, and yeah, she comes in to help, and we get to know her identity. She's actually an enforcer for Ouroboros like Blue Blanc, so that's interesting. Why was she acting so kind around Elisa and Arena though? Not so sure, but anyway. Again, something for another game perhaps. But anyway. Some more Soldats are coming in from the east, so Class 7 decide to try and defend that side too. They managed to defeat a Draken Soldat, but were powerless against Scarlet's Spiegel unit. And yeah, and actually I learned from my Persona 1 playthrough, Spiegel is German for mirror, and yeah, that's basically how she beats you. But anyway, as a last result, the Reen decided to use the power deep within him, and this leads to a cat Celine telling him to call out a certain name, that being Valakam, the Ashen Knight. So then the mech-like knight from the old Schoolhouse Awakened, Reen can take control of it like a mech, so he has a mech battle against Scarlet's Spiegel unit, and manages to beat her. These mech-like beings are known as Divine Knights, and yeah, that's what I'm going to be referring to them as. Unfortunately though, another Divine Knight enters the scene. This one is the Azure Knight Ordine, and it's piloted by none other than Crow himself. So yeah, as you would, Reen being the nice guy that he is, he tries to reason with Crow, but Crow's not having any of it. He even mentions that the Crow from before wasn't even real to begin with. So yeah. So yeah, that reasoning didn't work. And then this leads to a duel between the two Divine Knights. I should mention this too, but battling in a Divine Knight is very different. But yeah, since it's only for 2 battles though, I don't really go over it that much, but yeah. It was interesting doing these battles. The last one against Crow was pretty difficult, but I did manage to get him in the end. But I only had like a tiny bit of health left, I'm pretty sure. But yeah. So it was a close fight, but yeah, Crow reveals that he knows much more about these Divine Knights. He's been he's been using this Divine Knight for a long time, like at least 3 years, I'm pretty sure he said. So yeah. So yeah, he manages to beat Reen down, and yeah, Reen needs to retreat, otherwise yeah, he's done for. But yeah, so because of that, his fellow classmates try to hold off Crow for as long as possible. And whoever you had the conversation with during the after party will come speak to Reen and give him a private farewell, and showing how much they care for him. Then Reen begrudgingly retreats. It's actually one of the saddest things in the game, probably. So it takes that. Anyway. So it's probably one of the saddest things in this game. So yeah, Reen retreats and he urges, and yeah, he urges Valimar to say he wants to stay, but yeah, he just can't, and he's forced to retreat. And yeah, the fates of his classmates and Trista are unknown, unless you know, you play a sequel. So yeah, ooh, this chapter, alright. So yeah, the first part of it was pretty great. You had a lot of positive moments thanks to that school festival, and then, you know, stopping the old schoolhouse, but then we get heavily contrasted by the bigger problems. The Imperial Liberation Front's plan, what they did in Heimdallr, and then what they did in Trista. And yeah, the ending was also a heartbreaker, but it also hypes up the sequel due to it being a massive cliffhanger. But yeah, this is, I will say this is a great way to end this plot. But yeah, let's go into more detail now with my overall thoughts. So, this plot is mainly, I can feel that this plot's mainly supposed to set up the sequel, but the story still felt very satisfying. And the main reason for that is we get to see the characters grow a lot, which yeah, we'll be going into. And we also got to learn more about the world as well, so we got some world building going on as well. And yeah, this gives a good idea of what Erebunia is like, and yeah, it should be quite interesting to see what it's like now that the chaos has been unleashed, basically. I will say the characters are probably my favorite part of this plot, as I came to care about most of them by the end, and by seeing them grow and develop, which adds to the ending being such a heartbreaker, because yeah, I really want them to, you know, be alive and stuff, but we just don't know. I mean, I do know they come back, but, you know, like in the moment, I was really feeling for them, you know? So yeah, in the end, very impressive plot. I wouldn't say it's like one of the best things in the world, like plot-wise, but yeah, this is a very enjoyable plot. I really liked what was being shown. And yeah, I would really love to see how the sequel continues this on. Because yeah, I'm hyped. I'm officially very hyped, so yeah. So yeah, that's what I think about Cold Steel 1's plot and story. Now that we've done the synopsis, but yeah, how about we talk about those characters now, shall we? So the first character we have to talk about, of course, is Reen, our main character. So yeah, he does share quite a lot of qualities with other main protagonists. He's kind, he's caring, he likes to help others. But I actually did find him kind of a likable character. He has some fun dialogue, and I felt he is kind of necessary to help develop his fellow class 7 members. Of course, him being kind of in the middle of being a noble and being a commoner kind of helps with that. But yeah, and yeah, he does have a lot of great scenes where he basically like helps develop other characters too, like that scene with Lisa in Norn, and like the personal scenes in the final chapter. He really adds a lot to those, which is why I really like him because of that. But yeah, that's like, yeah, character-wise, yeah, Reen definitely quite impressive despite being, you know, kind of just, he does feel like a stand-in for the player because yeah, he's also kind of learning about this world too, and yeah, trying to help people out and stuff. But yeah, like I said, he was quite enjoyable. So yeah, I can't wait to see what he gets to the next game. But anyway, I think another reason why I quite like Reen a lot too, he's very strong in combat. His crafts are very potent and also have quite a lot of good uses. My favorites were probably Motivate, because the strength was very nice. Then he gets Gale for crowd control, which is also really great, and then Flame Impact too, which is very strong. His first two crafts are also pretty good before I was able to get the really strong ones too. So yeah. he was really great. And yeah, his master course that he starts with, which I believe is called Force. Can't remember the names very well, but it focuses on CP recovery. Mainly, if you kill something, then he gets some CP. So, if you kill stuff with your cross, you're gonna be able to pay for the cross back. So that's really great. It does mean also that Rean makes pretty good use of something that, like an accessory that helps with his CP, like the Gladiator equipment too. Then he really is gonna be able to keep his CP topped up. So yeah, great character to use because of that. Because your cross are really strong, and his ones especially, so yeah, it's great that he's able to use them a lot easier. And yeah, I can't wait to see how he develops in the sequel as well, because yeah, he definitely developed too. He definitely feels like a different person from when we started plot, so yeah. It's gonna be cool to see what comes of Rean in the future, and yeah, I quite like them as a main protagonist, like I keep saying. So yeah, overall, Rean's definitely a positive. If I was to rank him, I'd probably say he's like an A tier, probably. That's where I'd probably put him. Anyway, on to the next one. Our next character now is Elisa. So yeah, she does have kind of a rocky start due to that incident in the beginning. But yeah, she does apologize during the first field state, and after that, I start to really like her. Especially once she reveals her past concerning the trouble surrounding her mother, and seeing her talk to her mother for the keycard felt very satisfying, as it really shows that she really developed. Her scene after the school festival was also heart-touching too, so yeah. That's like the briefing, but yeah, at least she does like, I don't know, she really appeals to me a lot. I'm not so sure why, really, other than a nice design, but yeah. Seeing her develop was very satisfying indeed, and yeah, I think the character development in this game is pretty good, and yeah, Lisa's definitely a good example of that. But anyway, I also like her because she's really strong in battle as well. She mainly focuses on support. Her actual magical capabilities aren't that great. I remember her ETS not being like super high, but her support capabilities though are definitely some of the best. So yeah, some of her cross are great support, like Blessed Arrow, which recovers 40 CP in an area, that's amazing, and Heavenly Gift, which grants allies insight and CP recovery in area 2, so that's a great support at the start of the battle. Heavenly Gift is amazing for boss fights, so yeah, I really liked Elisa's cross and got tons of use out of them. Master Quartz is the Angel Master Quartz, I do believe. I probably said that earlier, but it revives her instantly if she drops to 0 HP, but it also gives access to some nice space arts, as well as reducing the delay of space arts. So with a gold bill, her space arts would have next to no delay, so she could spam Dark Matter and Seraphic Ring. Seraphic Ring was also nice to have around. It heals and also gives body HP return, so that's great. So yeah, Elisa's someone I could consider one of my favorites. But yeah, like I said, I love the character development. She's really strong in battle. I was always happy to see her around. She's definitely up there as one of my favorites. So I consider an S rank probably if they're going to be tiering them. So yeah, that's probably where I put her. Anyway, on to the next one. Next on the list will be Elliot. So, his backstory is pretty cool, and yeah, we're going to be going into a bit more detail about this. So, he wanted to pursue a career in music like his mother and sister Fiona. But his father, General Craig, wanted Elliot to follow in his footsteps and join the army. So, as a way of being halfway, Elliot would go to Force so he could learn about the military. And that also allowed him to sign up for the Wind Orchestra, I believe that's what it's called, as his school club activity. So yeah, he could still follow that, musical path at least a little bit. So yeah, pretty cool backstory, pretty decent too. I found it pretty interesting to learn about, but anyway, he had become one of Rean's first friends and acts as a generally nice person throughout. And yeah, seeing the develop after his backstory is pretty great, and I say he turned out as a pretty decent character. He's not like super mind-blowing or anything, but yeah, he was just a really nice person, and he's a really nice person, and yeah, he was pretty fun to like learn about and stuff, but yeah. So anyway, in Val, he's like a hybrid support and magic caster, I do believe. His cross tie into this, and most of them being pretty great throughout. He starts, one of the first ones he gets is Resounding Beat, which grants a defense boost as well as health regen. And yeah, health regen's actually pretty strong in this game, so the fact that he comes with it really early is great. And yeah, especially for bosses too. You will get Blue Lullaby, which deals magical damage and has a chance to put enemies to sleep, which is quite nice. The instant, the fact that it's an instant attack because it's a craft too is pretty nice, because then he doesn't need to waste time casting. So yeah, again, pretty good early on, but he may be just better off using his EP for, not SP, EP, for casting, so yeah. So yeah, there's that. Then you get Holy Song. This is actually pretty cool. It heals an area and also cures ailments. So yeah, pretty great, and again it's instant too because it's a cross, so that's very nice to see. And then finally he'll get Nocturne Bell. It's like a stronger version of Blue Lullaby. It does more damage and has a chance to inflict sleep or nightmare. Nightmare's a pretty scary status if it actually works, so yeah. He's pretty great, and yeah, I probably should have used him some more because there's some fights that he would have probably made a lot easier thanks to his healing. So yeah. Speaking of healing, that's what his Master Course also focuses on. I don't remember the name unfortunately, but he increases healing potency, basically, and yeah, it makes Elliot a very solid healer until you get Seraphic Ring, because yeah, Seraphic Ring is just good on its own, so it doesn't really need a boost from healing, so yeah. You can definitely use some other, like, Master Quartz on, maybe something to boost his damage, maybe give him something more support based, but yeah. The stuns he starts with though, very good for early game. It does give him access to some nice water arts as well as healing as well, so it's definitely pretty decent. So yeah, because of that healing, yeah, he definitely helped me out a lot throughout in battle, because yeah, especially in boss fights, because you know, you can't sleep on that how good that health regen is, so yeah, that's why I end up liking a pretty decent amount. He doesn't stand out like as much as my favorites in terms of character, but he was definitely a very nice person. So I'd probably give him like maybe a high B tier probably, because yeah, he's good, but because he doesn't stand out as much as my favorites, that's why I probably put him B. But yeah, there's really like no characters I dislike, which I think there's one character maybe, but that's really it, and they're not even a main character, so anyway, so that's Elliot. Let's go on to the next one. Next up we have Gaius. So he also has a pretty interesting first friends as well, and due to being an outsider, he does have different views on Ereborian society, and then he does have some pretty good character moments, mainly in Nord, but I feel like more probably could have been done to him, because he doesn't really contribute that much during the field study like Graham, in terms of plot. So yeah, like I said, he's a pretty great character, but with some decent moments, but yeah, I feel like more could have been done with him. He does feel like he's lacking a little bit in terms of character, so yeah. But in battle, he's pretty fun at least. He revolves around dodge tanking, as some of his weapons give him extra evade, and his Master Quartz gives him insight for extra evasion. So yeah, he becomes very good at evading attacks because of that. And yeah, his crafts are mainly for damage. They have good area effect as well. Apparently I didn't even write them specifically, all of them, but yeah, I think I got good use out of all of them, and yeah, some of them can inflict annoying status elements too, so yeah, they prove very, very decent. The one that really stands out though is Wild Rage, which makes so he loses 30% HP, but he gains 50 CP. So this is a way that he can get back his CP decently well, because yeah, he can dodge tank so he doesn't take damage, but yeah, he may also have other ways to heal his CP, but yeah, you can also try using health regen on him too, so that when he does lose HP, you can just get it back from the health regen. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways you can play around Wild Rage. I didn't make the most use out of it, but yeah, it definitely seems pretty decent. And yeah, overall, he proved quite fun to use when I did use him. And yeah, he's a character I quite like, and I hope he does shine more in the future, because I feel like this game could have done a little bit more with him. It probably didn't help that I didn't see many of his forging, well not forging, bonding events. But yeah, like I said, he's a character I quite like, and yeah, his playstyle's pretty fun, but yeah, I feel like, yeah, again, I want to see more of him. I want to see. I feel like, yeah, the sequel of course Cold Steel 2 will probably give him a good opportunity to shine like quite brightly. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, Gaius, I'd probably put him in B as well, because yeah, I still want to learn more about him, you know. So yeah, that's how I feel. But anyway, onwards to the next character. Let's move on to our next character now. That'll be Marcus. So he is one of those characters that's supposed to grow on you, considering his hatred for nobles making him kind of unlikable in the beginning, which yeah, he kind of did feel like. But he does get over it thanks to learning more about Usus and his backstory, as well as seeing the distinction between the good and the bad of nobles throughout, because yeah, we do that is definitely a common theme of this game. And yeah, seeing a character like this is definitely like, you know, expected when you have a class divide in your game's plot, so yeah. But yeah, like I said, it is good that he gets to go over it, or get over it a little bit, and yeah, all that good stuff. But yeah, that's mainly done through here, where learning his backstory really helps, since it does justify his hatred, although it doesn't justify him being judgmental at the beginning. But that can be seen as a character flaw that he grows out of, so yeah. That's why, yeah, I definitely did grow to kind of like his character too, especially because, yeah, we got to see more of his less serious side as well in some chapters, like in Heimdallr, for example. So yeah, that definitely helps him out a lot. But anyway, and yeah, other than that, he is a decently fun character, some fun dialogue, but he wasn't like super standout. That's why I have written down. But anyway, yeah, I say he's definitely a very good character. He doesn't stand out like a lot. He definitely does stand out near the beginning because of his rivalry uses. But after that, he starts to mellow out a little bit. It does mean that he stands out a lot less as the plot progresses, but I'd say he's still a very memorable character despite that. He definitely has his good moments. So yeah, overall I do quite like his character, which yeah, I guess I can go over later as well. But anyway, so as for how he is in battle, he is a bit interesting because he seems to be built around support. Because yeah, a lot of his crafts do things other than just do damage. He has Break Shot, which can lower defense. He has Energy Shell, which can recover HP and EP. Petrification Shell, which is an attack that petrifies. And then finally, Burst Drive, which has a lot of potential. Because it works similarly to Shera's Heaven's Kiss. And moves other characters turns forward, so yeah, that's great. I didn't use it that much, because what I actually had Marcus use a lot was Adamantine Shield. Once he did learn Burst Drive. So yeah, I can't deny that I can't deny that, yeah, Burst Drive has amazing potential, but yeah, I don't really get to use that potential that much. But yeah, I can see it being like extremely good, especially if you're using attacks with like large delay and stuff like that. But yeah, overall he is pretty fun to use. I definitely got some decent use out of him in battle, because yeah, he is definitely a not bad support, but yeah, he's definitely not the best support in the game. I think Elisa's CP recovery is like even better, but yeah, Burst Drive is not to be slept on, especially if you do build him around it, like I kinda didn't do. To be honest, the Adamantine Shield strategies are done better by another character, but yeah, we'll get to that later. Anyway, his Master Course is okay since it gives him defense buffs. It's both defense and mass defense, that's nice. And it even revives him from KO at max strength, allowing him to stay alive to continue spawning his allies. The arts aren't too amazing though. I think the only good one is Lark Crest, which raises all ally defense. So I probably prefer to give him another master course that's also Earth-based to help him out. But yeah, overall though, I do quite like Marcus. And yeah, in terms of offense too, I guess, even though he is a supporter, it feels like you can build him for either physical damage with like his break shot, or you could try casting with him. Both seem to work quite well, from what I could tell. But yeah, he is decently strong supporter. His character ended up quite fine in the end. I quite liked it. He is definitely not like the most standout character in terms of like both attacking and support. But yeah, he is very, very solid, I think. I'm not so sure where I put him. I probably put him high B tier, I'd say, in terms of how it to him. So yeah, he's definitely a character I quite like. In the end, he's definitely not like one of my favorites, I would say, but yeah, he's definitely up there. Like I said, there isn't really a character I dislike that much, to be honest, so yeah. But yeah, that's Marcus, and yeah, I'm kind of repeating myself, but yeah, I did quite like him. So, and yeah, I can't wait to see what he gets up to in the sequel too. But anyway, let's go on to the next character. Next on the list is Eustace. So, like Marcus, he also has a rough start because he fights back at Marcus's remarks. Because yeah, these two, if you couldn't tell from the chapter 2 summary, yeah, these two are in a big conflict with each other because of their different backgrounds. And yeah, Marcus hates nobles too, which yeah, doesn't help a lot, but yeah. But luckily, Eustace does reveal his backstory and why he joined Force 2, and that's because he wanted to escape his family life, most likely due to his father, because yeah, his father does act quite cold around him, which I believe he saw in Bereahard, where he lives of course, so yeah. And yeah, although we do get to learn more about Eustace and his backstory, he moves away from being very cold and distant to being more open. And yeah, that can be seen very well with his rivalry with Marcus, because it becomes less hostile and then it becomes more respectful. They still kind of, they're still very competitive, but yeah, they definitely aren't at each other's throats as much. So yeah, he develops into a very decent character, and yeah, I like it overall, I'd say. And yeah, he does definitely get some great moments too. Especially like the characters he like disagrees with and stuff, yeah. He's a pretty great character. Yeah, seeing it interact with the others too later on when he opens up is also pretty interesting as well. So yeah, I do like Eustace's character quite a bit actually. In battle, I think he really shines. He's kind of a mix attacker, but he focuses more on odds damage, mainly. Because yeah, two of his cross do magical damage, with Rune Blade lowering odds defense and Treasure's Sword dealing high damage, but can also inflict seal and freeze. That's pretty cool. I think my favorite craft with Eustace though is Noble Command, because that raises strength, ATS, and speed. So yeah, a great buffing tool. It does mean that Eustace is more useful than just dealing high odds damage. So yeah, that's what I really liked about Eustace a lot. Because yeah, not only is he good at using arts, but also he has a great buff, and yeah, he can make very good use of that. There's Master Course I think also helps him out a lot, because yeah, I definitely got a lot of good use out of it. It gives him an ATS buff at the start of battle, and yeah, that's extremely nice for random battles, because yeah, early on you also gain access to a nice quartz that has aerial on it. I believe it's called Breeze. And yeah, if you have that, and you give it to Eustace, then Eustace basically rips things apart with aerial. It's great. Making him like a really great character in the early game, especially in chapter 2. So yeah, I really like Eustace a lot. There are other like Master Courses I tried to use as well. I forget which one, but basically it gives you status immunities. That was quite nice to have around. It means that he can stay around a little bit longer too. You can definitely be melded into a lot of things, but yeah, you definitely want to focus on odds damage, because I think that's where he really shines. But anyway, so overall, I really liked him in battle, and his character is one of my, I wouldn't say one of my favorites, but yeah, it's definitely a great one. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorites, but he's definitely very close. So I definitely put him in the A tier because of that. If I was to rank this class. Because yeah, he really impressed me in battle, and his character was pretty good too, and also fits well with this game as well. And he also got a lot of good moments. So yeah, I really like Usus. And yeah, again, it'll be cool to see what he does in the sequel. And yeah, I also kinda like his design too. And yeah, I guess one way, I think like when I started to like him too, I kind of thought of him as like this badass Lorenz. I don't know. He is voiced by the same person, so I guess that's where this similarity comes from. But yeah. Anyway, so that's useless. On to the next character. Time for some bias alert now. Laura. So Laura has more of a basic backstory in this game. She's a noblewoman, so she could have joined the Saint Estrella Girls' School that Elise attends, but she settled on fours so that she could train her sword and martial techniques. So yeah, there's that. Pretty simple stuff. I think there's more to it than that, but yeah, I guess that might be for future games. But anyway, so her main development in this game, I say, is her overcoming the differences with Fie, which allows her to become good friends with her. I felt that after she became, and I felt that after that she became more open to others as well. Like she has another student in the swimming club, and yeah, after she became good friends with Fie, she definitely became a lot more open with her. So yeah, and yeah, helped the two of them out as well. So I think that was one example. I think that girl was called Monica now I think about it, but anyway. But yeah, despite the fact that yeah, she is definitely more of a basic character when thinking about it, I was always very excited to see Laura, since yeah, she exceeds so much coolness with the design, that giant sword, and her confident and righteous personality that we see from her a lot. Because yeah, I don't know, she just, like I said, she just exudes so much coolness, and yeah, that's why I always really like to see her. She also had some nice character moments in Legram as well, like the NPCs really admiring her and her interactions with her father too. Oh, that's so great. I also got to see more of her private scenes with Green than anyone else, and they proved very sweet. So, because yeah, if you could tell, yeah, I picked Laura for a lot of them, and yeah, I definitely came to really love her character as a result. So yeah, overall, even though she doesn't develop as much as the others, I still really love her character. She definitely feels like a character that's already in a good place, so I guess that's probably why. But yeah, still, she like really intrigued me so much, and yeah, I really came to love her. I think another thing that probably helped though is that she's extremely good in battle. So she focuses on high damage and crafts, and all of them prove pretty useful. Her first one's Armor Breaker, which lowers defense, and also deals quite a lot of damage too, and if I remember correctly, it also has a high chance to unbalance as well. So yeah, definitely definitely a great choice for her to use. Then you get Earth Cleaver, which isn't as strong, but Laura doesn't move to use it, and it attacks the line. So, and it even lowers the movement too, so enemies have trouble reaching you. So yeah, it's a decent attack, and it is able to hit multiple enemies, which Armor Breaker doesn't. But yeah, it's not the best crowd control though she gets though, because later on she'll get Brilliant Spin, which yeah, that has a much larger area, but also sucks enemies into its range. And yeah, this is definitely Laura's best way to provide crowd control. And yeah, with her gigantic power, then yeah, it's pretty great. Then her final craft she gets is Radiant Wings. It's a self buff where she raises strength and defense, and also gives her insight, but it decreases her arts damage and arts defense. So, very interesting buff. And yeah, you can even mitigate the stat decreases with the right equipment too. So, because there's some accessories to prevent stat down, and then you just basically get all positives from this. So yeah, It's an interesting buff, but I feel like buffing at other people is just more reliable. It also doesn't buff speed, which, not the worst thing in the world, but yeah. Oh well. But yeah. um, so yeah, Laura's quite a powerhouse her cross. She's definitely designed around them because yeah, she's a full-on physical attacker and nothing else really. And yeah, it's also good to see that, I mean, yeah, I've seen other like very physical-based characters like Gaius, but yeah, that's another thing about this game too. It definitely feels very kind to physical attackers, which I heard was a complaint with Sky FC and SC, where casters in that game kind of took over. But then the third decided to make some really powerful physical characters, and yeah, the world was balanced again. So yeah. Yeah, good to see that's still a thing here in Cold Steel as well. But anyway, her Master Course is one of the more fun ones that character starts with. It's kind of like Eustace's, because it gives her strength buff at the start of battle, which yeah, it makes her a powerhouse to the already strong cross. And yeah, like Eustace, it makes her quite good at clearing random battles. So, and yeah, she is also pretty good with some other things too. There's some other Master Quartz you can give her, like I mentioned the Taurus Master Quartz before, that can boost the damage even more, but it gives her more attack delay, so could be good for random battles as well. Or even with Burst Strike from Marcus, for example. But yeah. Another fun thing about Laura though I had a lot of fun with was Domination, which is a normal quartz. It makes that your first attack in battle does 2 times damage. So yeah, Laura is a great candidate for that because you can give us some Master Quartz that boost the damage by a lot. Like the 2 I've already mentioned. I believe her base Master Quartz is called the I can't remember. I think it was Force or something like that. But you either go to that or Taurus, and then you give it Domination, and they can start battle in S-Craft and do huge chunks of damage, maybe even one-shot some enemies. There's one kind of difficult, there's kind of like one difficult battle before a field study. I forgot what it's called. Practical exam, there we go. So there's kind of one difficult practical exam, but if you have Laura with that Domination setup, then it's not a problem, she one-shots, so yeah. But yeah, I love Laura so much. Probably my favorite character in this game, even though it's mainly for personal reasons really, because yeah, I just found her really fun to use, because how strong she was. I like the character a lot, and yeah, well, I don't think she's like the most interesting character because other characters develop a lot more and also are probably a bit more interesting as well. But yeah, like I said, it's probably because Laura's already in a pretty good place in terms of a character, so yeah, that's why she doesn't really develop that much. But yeah, I really like her. So this also begs another thing too. I will say, despite the fact that I really like Laura so much, I feel like Elisa has better chemistry with Reed. But I still like Laura a lot with him, and I was kind of interested to see the scenes with Laura, and yeah, I don't regret seeing those. And yeah, I can't wait to see what she's like in the sequel too. I can't wait to see if she's even more of a powerhouse. So yeah, that's something I'm definitely going to be looking forward to. So yeah, probably my favorite character in the game, and yeah, that makes her best too, as you expect. So anyway, onwards to the next character then. Now time for a character I wasn't expecting to like as much as I did, that being Fie. So, after Jaeger Corps disbanded, Sarah would find her and allow her to enroll at Falls. So anyway, at first glance, she doesn't seem that interesting to be honest. She acts very tired and bored, along with Fie just being very quiet in general and not speaking that much as well. However, I feel like that Fie has some of the best character development in this game, weirdly enough. But yeah, anyway, one of the catalysts for this is something we talked about before, where she becomes good friends with Laura. But there are like other things too, like her contribution to the gardening club. And yeah, you get to see that in some of her bonding events too, which yeah, I did get to see, so that was really sweet to see. And then in Rura, chapter 6 I do believe, I started to really like her since in this chapter, it feels like she really comes out of her shell, and hearing her very blunt reactions to what the other characters were saying was a real treat. Like, good examples is when Elise is eating lots of food, and then she bluntly says that she's gonna get fat. I mean, yeah, that seems kind of mean, but it was very funny. The delivery of that line was probably something I really liked. And then also her teasing Rean about going to see Captain Claire. Because yeah, I think Fee wanted to go out there to make sure that Rean didn't have any ulterior motives, so yeah. And you can definitely tell she was having kind of a lot of fun with Rean there, so yeah. Like I said, she has some of my favorite character modes, to be honest, so yeah, I came to actually really like her a lot. And yeah, I wasn't expecting to like her as much as I did, because yeah, like I said, she doesn't really start that interesting, because yeah, she's very quiet, she's very reserved, she also acts very blunt, like I said, so yeah. And yeah, I forgot to mention this too, but yeah, her after school festival scene with Dream was also really sweet as well. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't expecting to like her as much as I did, but seeing her development made me realize how great of a character she was. So yeah, that was great to see. And definitely shows how kind of important character development is with some of these characters, so yeah. Yeah, let's go into Belle. So she's also kind of a dodge tank like Gaius, but she's more built around being like fast and also being very annoying to the enemy as well with some of her crafts. So yeah, she is definitely strong, but yeah, I'd say that Gaius is probably stronger, like in terms of damage with his dodge tanking, so yeah. But anyway, so yeah, let's go over some of those crafts then. So, Sweep, which she starts with, it lowers enemy speed, which is quite good. Flash Grenade is low damage, but it can flip both blind and seal in a large area. Then she gets Scud Reaper, decently strong and has a chance to inflict faint or even instantly kill the enemy. And then, one of my personal favorite crafts in the game actually, Bullet Cyclone. It has a cool animation and it also deals a lot of damage. It has a good chance to unbalance and also can inflict seal too, so pretty great craft in my opinion. Even though it's probably not one of the best, but I like it because it looks cool. But anyway, she is very craft focused when I was using her. I don't think she's that great with arts, to be honest, so I should have mentioned this Laura too, but yeah, you definitely want some form of help with the CP, like Gladiator equipment, that's always useful, and then also teaming up with Elise is also great. So yeah, that's just some things to keep in mind to make the most out of her. And her master course that she comes with, it raises the speed, which is quite nice, and even provides Chrono Drive as one of its arts, so you can even bust your ally's speed too, which is quite cool. But yeah, and yeah, it actually gives a plus 10 evasion at the end as well, so yeah, it definitely fits in quite well. But if you wanted the dodge tank more, you can obviously try Gaius's Style Master course, because you get the insight and it also gives lots of evasion too, so yeah. That's also a good fit if you wanted to just dodge everything, and there's some quartz you can play around with because of that as well. But anyway, like I think there's one quartz that makes that if you dodge and counterattack, then you get always crippled, because yeah, that's actually something I should have mentioned before, especially in the gameplay section, but if you were to dodge an attack, you immediately counter, as long as the attack has enough range to, I do believe. So yeah, that's really cool, but enemies can also do that too, so you need to be careful. And yeah, it's definitely one fun mechanic. It makes Fee and Gaius kind of fun to use as a result. But anyway, so yeah, overall, like Elise and Laura, Fee is definitely one of my favorites. I'd probably put an S rank, just because, yeah, like I said, I wasn't expecting to like her as much as I did, and her character development was super great. And yeah, I got a lot of use of her in battle as well. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how she's handled this sequel, because, I don't know, we'll see. Because yeah, I feel like she might still be quite an interesting character, but we'll see what she gets up to. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. Our next character now is Emma. So, Cold Steel 1 doesn't reveal everything about her, kind of like Reen actually. We don't really know much about Reen's backstory too. But the game does do a good job of showing how different she is. Like her knowledge about some events, like that castle on the ground going all weird. And yeah, she even reveals that she knows Vita more personally as well. And then there's also interactions with Celine, the black cat, and yeah, that cat definitely has more to it than just being a cat. But anyway, outside that, she is the Class 7's class president. She's Class 7's class president. And yeah, as you expect, she acts very kind, polite, all that stuff that you expect from a class president, so yeah. And yeah, she does have some decent modes throughout, but yeah, it doesn't feel like she develops too much, especially since it feels like I really need to learn more about her past in a sequel. So yeah, I do think her character has potential, and I do quite like it so far, but yeah, I do need to see how she fares in the sequel, I feel. Because yeah, I feel like there's still a lot of pieces I'm missing with her. It probably didn't help that I didn't really see many of her body events. I think the only one I saw was Reed staring at her chest, but anyway. That's another weird thing about her. A lot of the characters really like her chest for some reason, I don't know why, but anyway. Enough about weird stuff, let's go on to how she is as combatant. She's actually pretty good. She is a caster through and through. And yeah, that means she'll maybe use arts, but her crafts are pretty interesting. Because she gets Serene Blessing, which is a single target revive. She gets Crescent Shell, which boosts defense. And even grants one-time Magic Reflect, which is pretty decent for bosses. She also gets some magical attacks with her cross too. And the first one she gets is Ethereal Edge, which is a magic attack that lowers the enemy ATS, so that's pretty cool. She's also kind of a mage check as well, which can be seen in her Master Quartz as well, which I'll go over in a little bit. Her last craft is Aster Flare, which is stronger and can flip Burn and Confuse. So yeah, she has a decent arsenal of crafts despite mainly being a caster, because yeah, she's definitely just going to be using those. And yeah, I think I had her mainly use, I forget what it's called. I think I mainly had to use like Silver Fawn, and I forget what the other one's called. It's the one that has the skull in the animation. But anyway, so anyway, past that, let's talk about Master Quartz. It heals EP when she kills enemies, and I believe it also gives her evasion against magic attacks too, so that's pretty cool. The EP from killing enemies is neat, but I prefer using other quartz that heal EP as well. There's Dragonfang. I think there's also a fire quartz that also heals EP. I think it's called like Antiquity or something like that. I can't remember the name very well, but it works well for Emma because she has restricted fire slot as well, so yeah. Oh yeah, I just remembered that. It's called Phantom Phobia. So yeah, I mainly was using Silver Fawn and Phantom Phobia with Emma throughout, so yeah. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, because she is a pretty decent caster, I like to make her stronger at that, so there's some other Master Quartz that are pretty good for casters too, to make them even stronger. Like for example the Pandora Master Quartz. So yeah, that was also a pretty good choice for her as well. And yeah, she was definitely ripping enemies apart with that one, so yeah. Overall, Emma's pretty cool in this game. She is definitely quite strong and useful, and her character is pretty good. But again, I kind of do need to learn more about her to see what I truly think about her. So yeah, the sequel's definitely going to be quite important for her as a result. At the moment, I'd say she's a B, but I am tempted to maybe pump her up to A. She's definitely a high B tier, I'd say. Because yeah, she is definitely very strong in battle, so yeah. That's why I'm considering A, but anyway. Let's move on to the next one. And now time for the characters that joined through the midpoint of this game, or at least during it. Our first one's gonna be Million. So she works as a spy for the intelligence division and joins Class 7 as she got along well with the class members during when we first saw her in Dawn. But this did help her spying duty as well. Duties, I should be saying, because it allowed her to investigate the old schoolhouse as well as try to deduce C's true identity. So despite being kind of a handful due to how energetic so she was, because yeah, she has a lot of energy with her, and yeah, she is kind of, you know, one of those characters. Because of that, but anyway, Classroom we come to appreciate Present because, you know, she is very lively, she's very cheerful and all that. But anyway, the character isn't too deep and we don't really know her origin yet, but her personality is what you expect, that she is a very cheerful young girl with lots of energy, but can be a bit ditzy, like showing Lammy in public, which yeah, most of the other party members kind of scold her for a little bit, but her time in Classroom would help her make less mistakes. And yeah, it definitely showed that she got better from her experience, so yeah, she even develops a little bit too. She was a fun character, but due to joining full time later on, she doesn't get as much time to shine compared to the rest of the cast. But anyway, which yeah, is an issue, but yeah, it is what it is. In battle, she acts as a tank of sorts. She can take hits and dish out lots of damage. The Crows focus on high power mainly. She gets Buster Arm, which does good damage and can cause faint, and I think it has a good chance to bounce as well. Riot Beam lowers strength, and then Megaton Press, her last one. It's like a stronger version of Buster Arm, more damage, more range, chance to faint as well. So yeah, anyway, another thing about Millium 2 is her ability to tank, because she also gets another cross she gets is Ultimate Barrier, which gives herself a one-time physical immunity, which is good, but it has a lot of delay if you remember correctly, and also you can use Adamantite Shield, which is a cross she gets on the Master Quartz too, so she is kind of built around that art, which yeah, I guess I can go to later. And yeah, Adamantite Shield's probably better because that can affect multiple people and give them a physical immunity, whereas Ultimate Barrier only protects her, so yeah. So then, yeah, let's talk about Master Quartz. It's a pretty cool one. It grants her a physical immunity and magic reflect at the start of battle, but it also gets the reduced delay on Earth Arts, which you can combine with an Earth Bell. And yeah, you've got a pretty confident Earth user, mainly using Adamantine Shield, because yeah, that is definitely a very useful art to have around. And yeah, if you want, you can also use, I think it's Crescent Mirror, that's the magical version basically, because yeah, they kind of nerfed the Earth Guard skills from the Sky games, where now they get kind of split in half, and yeah, there isn't like a version that affects everyone. You do need to position yourself correctly with Adamantite Shield, otherwise it's not going to work out. But yeah, that is probably her best playstyle with Million, but yeah, you can try doing other things because yeah, her damage is pretty good and she does get some pretty cool cross as well. But yeah, like I said, her Master Course does seem designed around Adamantite Shield, so yeah, that's probably the best way to use her, because that is, like I said, it is a very useful art. Protecting from damage one time can be quite useful. But anyway, overall, I did find Million quite a fun character. And yeah, I did quite like her in the end too. Like yeah, her character is probably something you've seen before. There's always like, a lot of games always have this like high energy character that gets into a lot of issues because of it. But yeah, overall I say she is quite a very fun little character indeed, so yeah, I quite liked her. I actually probably put her to the A rank despite the fact she doesn't really contribute much to the plot because she joins later. But yeah, it's just because yeah, I had a lot of fun learning about her, so that was really cool. But anyway, let's go into the last main character of this game. Our final character on the list is Crow, who, yeah, he is actually playable at some point, so yeah, we do need to talk about him here. So, at first he seems like your resident school slacker, but he did seem like kind of a nice person, as he helped test the Arcus in his first year, and then he also helped Reen save Elise and even helped prepare the concert at the school festival. And yeah, he also has some fun dialogue too, like in Rura for example. But everything changes though when he learned that he was C all along. And he even rejects some of those more positive times in Reen before, probably because the thing he really wants to do is get revenge on Osborn, like the rest of the Imperial Liberation Front. At least that's how I can tell at least. To his credit though, he did do a very good job of hiding that identity, even with Milliam around, like faking his own death to throw off the intelligence division, giving it a good opening to assassinate Osborn in the end. And yeah, with Osborn out of the picture and Crow being the main catalyst of the sequel, I hope that he has a very good role to play in the sequel because of that, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, like I said, he is an interesting villain. It was interesting to see him, you know, see that plot twist and all that. Especially because, yeah, I wasn't expecting Osborn to be done in the very first game, but yeah. And yeah, C himself was kind of interesting, but yeah, his motivation and stuff. But yeah, like I said, I feel like the payoff for all of this is gonna be seen in the sequel, because yeah, like I said, Osborn's death and C's actions at Heimdall are probably gonna be the main catalyst for the next game's plot, so yeah. But yeah, let's talk about when he was playable though. He is kind of a mixed attacker, and again, he probably has more of a focus on casting. His cross focus mainly on offense, but also on status too, kind of like feet. He gets rapid volley, which is decent and could delay the enemy. I haven't even talked about that much, but yeah, there's some. A lot of characters get an arch, or not art, craft that can delay enemies. I haven't really talked about them that much because most of them aren't super great on their own. But yeah, Reen has a pretty good one, Eustace has a pretty decent one, even Elise has one, so yeah. Most characters have something that can delay the enemy. I might also be getting confused with Impede. Impede stops enemy crafting, or enemies crafting, so yeah, I'm probably getting confused with that one, so I apologize for that. But anyway, so after that, he gets Freezing Bullet, which is a magic attack that can freeze, obviously. Wild Card is a weird one, it has a random effect, so yeah, I was too scared to use it. Because yeah, I have seen attacks like that in other games, and yeah, they can do anything, so yeah. And then finally Chaos Trigger, which is high damage and can confuse or inflict nightmare, so pretty decent sounding. And yeah, it's a physical attack, I'm pretty sure. And his Monster Quad's an interesting one. It causes the attacks to inflict random stat downs, which is pretty decent if the enemy is vulnerable to them. And you can combine this with quartz that can inflict statuses as well. And there's definitely a lot of decent ones too that can do that. So yeah, because your stat downs definitely can make a big difference. And yeah, combine it with other stats course too, not bad idea, like I said. But anyway, Crow is definitely interesting at the moment. We'll see how he pays off in the end, because yeah, he's definitely very important for the sequel. And yeah, I hope he's handled well too. I hope. And we'll see how it goes for him. But yeah, at the moment, I'd probably put him at B tier. He would have been A tier if he didn't betray me. I'm joking, but but yeah, like I said, I think Crow has the potential to be an interesting like rival or villain to Reen and COD Steel 2. But yeah, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, that's all the main characters. But we still have a supporting cast to go over. This won't take us long. And maybe we talk about the guest characters as well as one other character that I thought would be important to talk about. So let's go. Anyway, let's move on to the supporting cast now. We're gonna start with Sarah. So she used to be a bracer, but then she became an instructor for Fours, which eventually led her to becoming the instructor for Class 7. I don't remember how this happened exactly, or if it has been revealed yet, so I'm gonna talk about it just in case. She does a pretty good job at teaching her students, considering that Class 7 was well received in the end. by the members. But yeah, it is shown that she is kind of a bad teacher, well normally, because she acts very carefree, she drinks a lot, she's not very good at paperwork, but it does lead to some really kind of funny scenes involving her. Mainly people calling her out for her acting not very teacher-like, so yeah. But yeah, the fact that she drinks a lot too, and and I guess, yeah, the fact that she drinks a lot as a teacher definitely reminds you of another character, but anyway, yeah, another game. But yeah, as we got to see Guerrilla, she is ready to act and help when the situation gets dire, so yeah, she can definitely be a serious character when the situation arises, so yeah. Yeah, Sarah proved an interesting character to learn about, which leads to her after school festival scene, which proved really interesting as Rean learns that Sarah has had it rough in the past through the bonding events, for instance. Like, yeah, I think she lost someone she was close to, and then she drinks to remember him, I do believe. I think that was one bonding event. And then Rean explains that her teaching and flaws will give her happy moments in life to remember. And yeah, that felt like really touching. He said something along that line. I was actually very impressed with that after school festival scene, because they could have definitely played it as a joke, because you're getting wrecked by affinity between Rean and his teacher, but they didn't. They played it very seriously and also made it feel very heart-touching, which I was not expecting and I was very impressed by. But anyway, speaking of Rean, while she does tease Rean quite a bit, mostly for comedy, she doesn't show any interest in Rean, mainly because he is a student, with Rean agreeing to that as well, which is nice to see, because, you know, we don't do taboo relationships around here. Anyway, she is only playable during Guerrilla Fortress, but she does make an impact. She has some really strong crafts, and in terms of power, and they also have some pretty good second effects. I won't be going into a lot of detail because yeah, she's only playable in one place. But yeah, she's definitely quite good. Her Master Calls can also be attained at the end of the game if the player chooses. You have to choose between either her Master Calls or Night Arts. Her one's interesting. It recovers HP and EP based on the damage dealt by attacks and cross. So that's kind of interesting, and it learns some decent arts too. Overall, I found Sarah quite underrated since I really enjoyed seeing her, and she actually has some pretty good scenes and character moments, mainly in bonding events. And that after school festival scene is probably one of my favorites. So yeah, Sarah actually ended up kind of like V as definitely an underrated gem from this game. I'd probably say she's A rank because she would have been S if she's playable more often, but yeah. I do have to tone down my bias sometimes, so yeah. And yeah, I can't wait to see what else she gets to do in the sequel. If she has a great role in the sequel, I'll be very happy. But anyway, moving on to another supporting cast member. Anyway, let's move on to Angelica. So, like Crow, she's a second year, and I believe she probably helped with the tuning up of the Arcus as well during her first year. But anyway, her main role in the plot is at Ruro, where she fights alongside the group as a guest, like Sarah did in Guerrilla, and helped the group by defeating Cedar, which is very interesting when you think about that. But anyway, despite her heroic actions, she greatly upset her father, who forced her to leave Fours, but lets her visit again for the school festival, as long as she meets someone for her arranged marriage, which we get to see her in clothes that are very not like her. But anyway, other than that, she basically sits on the sidelines throughout the game, but she does get some quests involving her, like Rean helping her tune up her beloved Orbital bike. I wish she got to drive that thing, but oh well. Because yeah, you know I would love a mini game like that. And then there's also another interesting one where she challenges Rean to a one-on-one battle in the gym to test her tire skills. Kind of difficult battle because she can use S-Cross, so yeah. But yeah, unfortunately we have to go a bit negative here because Angelica is kind of poorly written. mainly because she suffers from having one character trait that makes her kind of unlikable. And that's the fact that she acts as a lesbian, basically. And it basically feels like she is like this due to fanservice. Yeah, not great. It kind of reminds me of Heather in Radiant Dawn, where she just acts the way she does because of fanservice. That's what it feels like to me anyway. But anyway, she wants to get her harem and has some questionable scenes like in Ruro where she climbs the ladder last so she can take a peek at the girl scut. Yeah, not good. And yeah, this kind of annoys me since outside of that, she's kind of interesting, but the character trait makes it kind of hard to like her. Which, yeah, that's a shame. I'll go into more detail what I find interesting about in a bit, but in battle, she can be useful at small time, but she's actually pretty decent. She hits really hard, because she's a physical attacker who hits really hard and has some really hard-hitting cross. And yeah, I think she was pretty good with the domination quartz that I used on Laura too, because yeah, she does have a pretty strong S-craft, which can be used to dent a lot of HP, so for a boss and stuff, so yeah, pretty decent stuff. Unfortunately, I don't think I was able to get her Master Quartz in my playthrough, so I'm not so sure what it does. I believe it was the Emblem Master Quartz. Unfortunately, I can't remember very well. I know that it was space element, so yeah. But overall, I did like using her, but the character, like, yeah, it kind of annoys me due to that character trait kind of tainting my view of her, which is a shame because I feel like she does have some kind of potential. Since I do find her theme of rebellion kind of interesting, because she wears a biker suit, she rides around a bike too. Since yeah, she doesn't agree with what her father thinks. But yeah, like I said, the fact that yeah she acts the way she does, and it kind of annoys me because of that. Yeah, it makes it kind of hard to like. And yeah, hopefully things improve for her in the sequel. Because yeah, maybe in more dire situations, maybe she'll act more serious, we'll see. It still doesn't excuse what happens in Ruro, but oh well. Anyway, let's go on to the last character. Time for our last character, now supporting cast. This one's not playable, but I thought she'd be fun to talk about regardless. Toa. So, she is pretty important supporting cast member because she's the student council president and a very hard worker as a result. But luckily, since Rean decided to not join a club, he decided to help the student council out and help ease Toa's workload. And yeah, this is the many side quests that Rean gets given to do during school, so yeah. She's useful outside that as she helps people evacuate when the terrorists cause commotion at Dracula's Plaza. And yeah, thanks to what Rean did at Corellia Fortress, she was saved from probably getting killed at the West Moria Trade Conference. Because yeah, those railway guns probably would have targeted Crossspell, and yeah, it would have not ended well for her. And yeah, as a result, she does thank Rean for the support the support that he gave. And yeah, one of the last things she does is she helps prepare the school. She helps give the idea for the school festival to Rean. Yeah, she was the lead singer for the concert in their first year. So yeah. And yeah, that gave Class 7 inspiration to do their own concert. And yeah, that concert would prove a very big success. Her fate at the end of the game is unknown because we don't know what becomes of Fours after Rean's escape. So yeah. At the end, she does try to stop Class 7 from getting involved with the Soldats. Because yeah, she wants to make sure they're safe, but I guess that's responsibility as a student council president, of course, but yeah. Hopefully things end up good for her. But yeah, I like her. She's very nice, she's very charming. We can't really say much else about her because she doesn't fight, but she's definitely a nice character to see and talk to. And has some pretty nice moments too in the plot. So yeah. It'll be interesting to see if she gets anything bigger in the future. Maybe even a playable role. That'd be actually kind of interesting. I wonder what weapon she'd use. But anyway. But yeah, we'll see what comes about that. So anyway, I guess I'll also give my overall thoughts to the characters here too. So yeah, Cold Steel is an extremely strong cast of main characters that I really liked by the end, and I did find the supporting cast pretty decent too. This cast was considered a main factor of why I ended up enjoying the story quite a bit, because yeah, like I said, a lot of these characters have great moments throughout the plot, and yeah, it was really enjoyable to see the fun dialogue as well. The voice acting also being quite good in this game too definitely helped out a lot as well. As well as those many added voice lines in the update release as well. So yeah, like I said, definitely a great cast of characters here. And yeah, a pretty big cast too, but yeah. Like I said, I was very impressed by this cast. I mean, I did see how great the cast was in Sky the Third, for example. So yeah, I was expecting a pretty good cast, but I guess my expectations were blown. I think this game definitely met my expectation and maybe went beyond them too, so that was great to see. Anyway, so now let's go on to the final part, my conclusion. So to conclude this giant video, Cold Steel 1 is definitely a game that I recommend to a JRPG fan, since the game proved easy to pick up and play, but still gave me a fun time by giving me lots of things to experiment with, like different characters, quartz and master quartz, as well as gave me a good challenge at some parts too. Coupled that with a story I quite liked and a great cast of characters, and this game proved very enjoyable to play through. And yeah, also a very enjoyable game to like chat about as well too. And yeah, remember that my playthrough is blind too, so I wasn't really knowing what to expect as well. And yeah, definitely, like I kind of said with the characters too, my expectations, it definitely met my expectations and maybe even went beyond them too, so that was great to see. And yeah, the game definitely did its job well, because yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how the sequel will fare in terms of story, as well as see if there's any improvements being made to the gameplay as well. And yeah, thanks to Cold Steel, this is definitely a series I'm pretty interested in now, and it'll definitely be fun to hear about other games in this series as well. We do have Trails from Zero coming out in September 22, so that'll be very interesting to see. And yeah, the other Cold Steel games for me as well. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna set my eyes on Cold Steel 2. It's a game I'm thinking of maybe getting at the end of 22, I hope. Because yeah, I definitely like Cold Steel 1 a lot, and yeah, I want to see how the story progresses from there. As well as, again, I want to see if the gameplay will be just as fun as well. So yeah, I have a lot to look forward to. So yeah, that's it for my thoughts on Cold Steel 1. I probably didn't need to make it this long of a video, but oh well. So yeah, I like this game a lot. It's definitely something, alright. And yeah, this video definitely probably should have made it this long, but oh well. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm still not ready for my next playthrough, which will be Fire Emblem 4. So yeah, I still want to make those test videos too, and we can also discuss some other topics too as well. The next video I would like to make is testing Shadow Dragon, so yeah, look forward to that. And yeah, I'll probably also talk about the new Fire Emblem game that got released, or got revealed in Direct too, so look forward to that. So yeah, that is me done with Cold Steel, and yeah, I'll see you guys again for whatever I decide to get up to next.